When the normal BS just won't do. ChaoticRadio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all around the world, I go by the name of Jason Heine. We got a treat for you today.
Oh, man.
Yo, he went from Pete to Johnny, but now he's kicking it with Mr. Heine. Well, what can I say? He likes my pool and he likes the sun rays. Yeah, and when he flips up his tail and the birds fly by, they tweet it all day. We were on our way to Quick Trip for a drink run. He asked me a bit about Gamester 81. I said,
welcome to the Kinda Gaming Show, live on Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We have our usual co-host with us, Connor, not McGregor. We have Brundon.
Hey.
And welcome back for the first time since the first episode, Miguel, no nickname.
That's a good one. I like that nickname.
Yep. Well, there we go. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Doing pretty good. I think we're all good.
Awesome, man. All right, we have a very special guest with us tonight. We have the Jason Heine from Heine House Entertainment, formerly known as the EMU Review. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, my gosh. Now you're taking me way back here with Get Your Whale On. I encourage everyone to please drop down and get your whale on. You're taking me way back in. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the invite. Thanks for having me. And Connor, Brundon, and Miguel, is it? Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, man. It's super cool to have you on, you know. I've been a fan of yours for a long time, you know, since I think your very first appearance on the All Gen Gamers podcast. Been following you since then. We've become, you know, at least associates. We worked on Horizon Shift together and did a bunch of really cool stuff, man. So it's really good to have you on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that was 2014, I think. We were working on Horizon Shift. Great game. That turned out fantastic and great experience for sure. So, yeah, I appreciate it, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So what have you been up to these days, my friend? Where can people find you?
I'm everywhere. Basically, you just type in my name in the old Google, and it comes up everywhere. But what have I been doing? Gosh, a little bit of everything. Producing lots of stuff. That's pretty much what I do full time. Basically, content creator, entertainer across every form of on the internet. Basically, YouTube, Twitch, podcasts. I do 2 different podcasts. You know, producing, obviously, Andrew, you know that, but I mean, producing video game audio and sound design, voiceovers, I mean, you name it. Just basically involved in that whole world. And it's a ton of fun. I love it. I feel very lucky, and it's humbling to do what you are truly good at and passionate about. And so, and I mean, like even this here, this is really exciting for me. I know when you told me, hey, Jay, we're going to do our top 5 SNES games, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're probably going to regret having me on, because like I grew up, I lived during that time, and I started taking notes. This is what I do. I'm a professional. I don't screw around. I go in. I have 3 pages of notes just for that section, and I'm like, okay, I got to stop. So I'm just like, hands off the keyboard. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. So I just appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And, you know, speaking of that segment, you know, we have 5 of us on the show today, so how about we just jump right into it? Every one of us has a top 5. And let me tell you, we've been doing these top 5s for 2 weeks now. We did NES and Sega Genesis. Now we're doing Super Nintendo. And this has by far been the hardest, to narrow down to 5.
Oh, yes.
I've kept going back and forth between, like, 10 different titles. I could have made a top 10 very easily here, where with NES and Sega, I was pretty content with my top 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could have easily done a top 10 and have been like, yeah, this works. And then there would still be a hard shift getting a top 10 on there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool, dude. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Now, before we get started, does anyone have any honorable mentions? I'm just gonna go totally free range here before I start picking on people and decide who goes first. Does anyone have any honorable mentions?
The entire Super Nintendo catalog. No.
Even Shaq Fu?
Even Shaq Fu. No.
Shaq
The biggest omission to this list that I didn't put on there, I have reasons for it, but it's still hurt me to not put on there is Chrono Trigger.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but there's reasoning behind it, so
Fair.
you'll see. Yeah,
The reasoning's like he's fucking weird. No.
Oh yeah. By the way, Jason, it's totally cool to curse. Just in case.
Oh, okay.
I
wasn't. Yeah, no worries.
I gotta make sure when I start sending out these emails to tell them it's okay, because I feel like every show someone says a curse word and I have to explain to our guest like, oh yeah, it's fine. Don't freak out. We're not gonna get fired.
Should just have a picture at the end of the email that just says, "It's okay, you can curse." Fuck yeah. It's like a little guy doing a thumbs up.
Yeah, we'll take a picture of you, Connor, for the end, and you'll be in the email.
There we
All
go.
right. Cool, man. So let's go ahead and get started. Jason, since you're our guest, if you wouldn't mind, will you please start with your number 5?
Oh my gosh. So I'm basically echoing exactly what you said here. I can easily make a top 20 list and still have about 20 or 30 honorable mentions. This is a very, very difficult thing for me. In fact, I spent most of the day today part typing, part crying, part trying to figure out how I'm actually going to come up with this. So I'll just briefly, just because you asked honorable mentions, I'll just hit them really quick, all right? Because I know we got a lot of people here, a lot to do. So honorable mentions to me. That's crazy. You talked about Chrono Trigger being on there. I'm going to say, and this is probably in everyone's top game, but honorable mentions for me. Super Mario World. Ooh, I know. Oh my gosh,
that
I'm
was
hitting it
mine
off
too.
strong here.
I was gonna say my
Hitting it off.
honorable mention was that too because it's not on my list.
Oh.
Yeah,
Is it
it's
the
an
one?
absolutely brilliant game, and one of the best Mario games out there. I know, but it's not on my list, and there's reasons for that.
Same.
So next on my list, honorable mention is Mega Man X.
Yep, same.
Yeah, that was another one.
That was a tough one.
It's
Oh my
a
God.
hard
Yeah,
list.
okay, I'm feeling the love. I think we're all in the same family here. That's cool. I like this.
Except for Connor
Um,
with this no Chrono Trigger. Get out of here.
I'm starting to feel really casual about my Super Nintendo experience because these are on my list.
Sorry.
Spoiler!
I didn't say where.
Oh, that's true.
Last two, Turtles in Time.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
great game.
Absolutely incredible. One of the greatest Turtle games, other than the arcade version. That is
Definitely.
hands down great Turtle game. That needs to be mentioned. And of course, I'm going to put Star Fox as my last honorable mention,
Yeah, that
which was
a
an
good one.
achievement in so many things, graphics and gameplay and technology. That game should definitely be on. If not on the list, it should be mentioned for sure. Okay, gentlemen, starting us off. Number 5. The amazing console release, November 21st, 1990, F-Zero.
Hell yeah.
boy.
This
Yeah, oh
game,
yeah.
now I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit. I mean, I can go into a little
absolutely.
bit
You
of some
can-
highlights.
Go ahead, man.
F-Zero, absolutely groundbreaking game. This was, oh, look at this.
Oh.
Look at this.
There it is, the title screen. Such a good one.
Dude, I'm smashing start right now. I'm just fucking mashing that right now.
Let me
Let's
go.
Let's go. So F-Zero, incredible game. This was a launch title. This was the first game to use technology that Nintendo called the Mode 7 scrolling. It's basically a way to make everything to appear as if it's basically like scaling. All right, so you would see this in other games, like you would see this in Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy III, Pilot Wings, or if you played Mario Kart on Super Nintendo, that game was based around Mode 7. So you would understand that completely. But F-Zero was that, a racing game. The sense of speed was absolutely incredible. The controls were super tight. It had a smooth frame rate. I mean, it was just a brilliant game. And you wouldn't think a racing game. Racing games are whatever you want them to be, good or bad, love or hate.
Right.
But I mean, for a launch game, this was so strong. And I hear this music playing in the background. I'm getting a hard on over here over it. The sound was fantastic. I mean, everything was so futuristic. It was edgy. It was futuristic. The music was some of the greatest and fitting for the game. I mean, simply put, it was a pick up and play game that it was
replayable.
easy to play and hard to master.
Yeah.
Number 5, F-Zero. Love that game.
Great choice, man.
You mentioned getting a hard on. Hey, lucky you, you're not on camera right now.
Hey, we got this table. So.
That's true, huh? If we just scoot up, oh shit, let me not make noise like that.
Yeah,
But
man.
I love that game. Absolutely. It's so great. It's so much more than just a racing game. It's goddamn.
Oh, I agree completely.
Is it a bottle
Completely.
opener?
It's, you know, there's certain things about racing games where, I mean, I love racing games. It's like, other than action games and shooters and stuff, I love getting into a racing game and experiencing, you know, the tracks and the way that the vehicles handle. And I love mastering. I love hitting the apexes. I love trying to master levels to get the best time. It's just something about it. Like I hate doing puzzles, right? But somehow I look at racing games, especially like F-Zero, it's kind of like a puzzle when you're really trying to fit your vehicle in that corner just right, off the throttle, you know, hit the brake, turn sharp. Ooh, it's so good.
Very good. Andrew,
That's a great way to kick it off, man. All right, so let's.
Yeah, if this is his number 5 and he's that passionate about it,
Yeah, I
Right?
know,
This
Oh,
is
dude.
Super Nintendo.
Let me just quickly say before I go any further, before we hear any other ones, like I said, so I mean, I don't know how old we all are. I'm in my mid-30s. I grew up during this era, and I was there day one for all this stuff. I bought these games before they were the cult classics. I mean, these were in dollar bins. I saw all these games in dollar bins back in the day, and so like I am so passionate about the Super Nintendo. I'm so glad that you invited me on, and you guys may regret inviting me on because I love to talk about this shit. But
No, it's excellent.
it's so awesome. So I'm happy to be here to talk about it. And we have a bunch more games to go. But again, yes, I love it. I love the Super Nintendo. All right, I'll shut up.
Don't worry about
You
it.
can make fun of my number 5.
I think this segment is slotted for the first hour, but honestly, would it be a big deal if we went both hours?
No, like I said, if it goes into the second hour, totally cool,
Totally
man.
cool,
But
yeah.
like in the second hour, we're gonna open it up to see if anyone wants to have any phone calls, talk to Jason, ask him questions.
Right.
But it's not like if we're only on number 3, we're gonna be like, nope, no
That's it.
more.
No way.
You know, we're gonna leave everyone with SNES blue balls,
Yeah.
if you will. All right, so I guess I'll move on to my number 5, which again is a game with me being the hipster I am, man. I love this game. It's called Boogerman: A Pick and Flick Adventure.
All right.
Fucking great.
Oh yeah.
It is a Interplay classic. It is a platforming game where you just kill people with your boogers. It is like every child's little boy's dream to be able to do that. I don't know why. Like, I just got such a sense of enjoyment doing it. And as a kid, I just thought it was funny. I'm throwing boogers at people.
Oh,
But
wait.
now, as like an adult, I understand like the complexities of the game and how great it looks and just everything about it. It's totally underrated in my opinion. It's not a game that
Yeah,
people
it's very underrated.
that people think about when they think about classics, but it's fantastic.
It's one that I like. The thing I loved about it, like, because I didn't play it very much, but its art style is very like 80s rock looking. Like, it just looks like the grungy metal stuff.
Yeah, man. Has anyone else on the show ever played Boogerman: A Pick and Flick Adventure?
No, I've never. Even heard
I'm
of
showing
it.
him pictures of it right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Connor pulled up some pictures. Look at this dude's chin.
What about you, Jason? Am I alone in
Yep.
this?
No, I absolutely have, both on
Oh.
Super Nintendo and also on Genesis. They had a Genesis version of it too.
Nice, man. That's super cool. So
I
that
mean, you're talking about Interplay too. I mean, you're starting us off right, dude. Interplay, okay, hands down. Like, those guys back in this day, they were like the king of quality gaming for these consoles, hands down.
Even PC as well, because they went on to do Fallout.
Oh, absolutely. Like, Out of This World.
Oh,
We had
yeah,
Clay
yeah.
Fighter. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. These guys are incredible.
yeah, man. Clay Fighter was a game that almost made my list. It didn't quite. I had so many that.
I feel like the night's just gonna be us saying this almost made the list. This almost made
Yeah.
the list.
Right?
Everything
Yeah,
is
I mean, that's
right on.
okay. There's so many good games, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's my number 5. I starting off strong.
Good fun
Let's
one.
go with Miguel.
Miguel.
Yo, yo.
Miguel, what is
All right.
your Number
So-
5, my man.
I'm only 23, so
Same.
I was not even 3 years
Oh,
old.
I'm 24. Jesus, I
Ah.
forgot it was my birthday.
Just had
I
a
was not even
birthday.
3 when this console came out. We had one, and I grew up playing it. So, but we didn't have that many games. But one of the ones I played the most was Donkey Kong Country 3.
Oh hell yeah!
That was me and my brother. That old couch co-op gameplay. That was good. That was a good game. I
Good
didn't play
stuff.
the first
Great
two, though.
choice. Great choice.
Yeah.
So I have to go with 3 because that was the one of the series that I played.
Well, that whole series, like the graphics were mind blowing
Phenomenal.
for
It looked
that
good,
time
yeah.
with those
Oh, yeah,
pre-rendered
dude.
graphics. Like that was something that hadn't been done before.
You know what's funny is this one in particular, because I love Donkey Kong Country. 3 in particular, though, I played it more on the Game Boy than I did on the
Oh,
Super
nice.
Nintendo. Is the funny part. I mean, it was like totally not the same thing,
Yeah.
but the fun was still there.
You can't appreciate the art though.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, Donkey Kong Country is one of those games. I love it. Didn't quite make the list.
Damn.
Yeah.
It had a lot of like depth to it. Too. There were like areas in there that like you had to unlock through like some.
All the hidden zones and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the really cool part about Donkey Kong Country. Like in general, the whole trilogy. It had secrets. It has that like definition of old school game where it's difficult but doable and has like its own art and
Yeah,
music,
definitely.
secrets,
Totally.
toads. Like it's all there.
This was like rare at the beginning. Maybe not the beginning.
Rare.
That might not be correct.
No,
but
it was- it
when
was
they were
something.
like just starting to get into their height, Donkey Kong Country. I believe Rare did Killer
They did
Instinct
everything.
also.
They did,
They
yeah.
did
And then-
everything on Super Nintendo.
Wait, I mean, Jason, you should know about KI. You're a big KI guy. You used to own the arcade machine.
Look at you with the soundboard, man. You're on it. You're on it. I'm honestly like, if we're talking about Rare, if we're talking about Donkey Kong, talking about KI, I'm extremely versed on this area. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to spoil it. I mean, yeah, Donkey Kong. There's maybe one on my list somewhere, and we talk about all that with the graphics and Andrew. Getting back to your point, they were at their height. I think a little earlier than when this game came out, to be
Okay.
honest. But it's come on. Rare made some of the absolute greatest games on Super Nintendo and would go on to make some of the greatest games on N64. Even back on the NES days, they made some incredible stuff. RC Prime and a bunch of others that you may not even know that they made. I mean, Battletoads, hello.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Battletoads
incredible
is
stuff.
awesome, man.
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Donkey Kong Country 3, absolutely brilliant choice. Great choice of game there.
Absolutely, man. I love this. We're all gushing over it. How like it's so much different. Like last week when we did Sega Genesis, I mean it was fun, right?
Yeah.
And all of us were loving the games. And John Hancock was doing a fantastic job, but I feel like we're all just gushing over the entire library. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, Con Man, what's your choice?
Number 5, Miguel already knows this one, is Harvest Moon, the original. And it was like, that was one I was like, I know I have to put this in here because that was like what ended up bumping out Chrono Trigger.
Oh,
Like, right?
ouch.
Because it, like, okay.
Hard.
So the reason why like Harvest Moon ended up making it is because Harvest Moon, it was the first time, like that's actually in my favorite game genre, is this whole like build your own lifestyle
Okay, yeah.
games. Animal Crossing actually being my favorite game of all time.
Nice.
There's gotta be a
And
name for that.
yeah, I feel
Well,
like
as
there's
someone
this,
who loves
Farming
Animal
Simulator.
Crossing.
No, that genre.
okay.
yeah, there has to be. I'm not aware of it if there is a specific name for it. But Harvest Moon was my first step into that style of game.
Do you play Farming Simulator every year?
No, I don't play Farming Simulator. It's see, that's the thing. It's not about the farming. It's about like building your life and like
The
community
RPG
aspect.
aspect.
Do you
of
like
it.
The
Right.
Sims?
I do enjoy The Sims, but that's also in like its own little category.
Okay.
'Cause it's like because you look at The Sims, you look at Animal Crossing, or you look at Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing definitely have a lot more in common than this, either due to The Sims.
Would it be wrong to call it like how they have like JRPGs? Would it be wrong to call it like a J life simulator?
like maybe you could almost
Well,
go
because
that.
they are RPGs.
Yeah.
But there has to be like a different like branch of RPG for
Well,
these.
it just means role-playing game, so you're
Yeah.
playing the role of
Yeah,
caretaker.
you see, but then it's like it's like it gets really specific because then there's like some people who say that like Skyrim isn't a traditional role playing game, or
no, 'cause
That's
when I
a
hear-
conversation for another
But,
time.
When I
Yeah,
hear
exactly.
JRPG,
But that-
Dark Souls comes to mind because that's
Yeah.
JRPG.
That's the
See,
JRPG.
So
Yeah.
like when I go to it, it's like Harvest Moon. It has this wonderful little soundtrack we hear playing here. It's all
Yeah.
happy and merryful, and it was like it was one of the first games that I actually experienced, or if not the first game, that actually transgression through seasons and like had this active clock going on rather than just playing levels. You were living in a little world. So
Interesting.
That's from the GameCube, Wonderful Life.
Nice.
I like how you know that. You're like, you instantly knew. You're like, no,
It's
that's
one of- it's-
GameCube.
it's
That's not
bec-
NES.
It remains one of my favorite series. So like now it's no longer Harvest Moon, it's Story of Seasons because of licensing names and stuff.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Harvest Moon is still made by the same company. It's called Story of Seasons in America now, though, because Natsumi, they own the Harvest Moon name, and they started making their own games under the Harvest Moon name.
That's
The Harvest Moon you see today is not by the same company.
weird.
So if you're like, oh man, the quality really went to crap like recently, it's
'Cause it
not.
did.
Yeah, it's because it's not Harvest Moon. Story of
Yeah.
Seasons is the real Harvest Moon.
It's a different developer on it.
Yeah, completely different developer for the new Harvest Moon because Natsumi never made the games before. They just localized them.
The like
Oh.
aesthetic change too.
Yeah, the aesthetic was like it's completely different. Like they basically made mobile games now. Harvest Moon has become a mobile game and they port it to consoles, and it's like the name Harvest Moon is being tarnished by that. Luckily, a lot of like the fans have realized that, but like people who are just gamers who have like dipped in it, it's kind of sad because it's like it could destroy the series in America.
When was the last official?
The last official Harvest Moon, I think, was
What was the company?
Tale of-
Natsume?
Natsumi, yeah. The last one I think was Tale of Two Towns on the 3DS.
Oh, that recently?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like it's only the last two have been, but they're like really bad. Like the new ones, they definitely look like something that was on a mobile or a flash game.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That's a very cool first pick, man. I only make, maybe I'm making assumptions, but I feel like that's not going to be on any of our other lists.
No.
Yeah, I feel like that might be the bit of the hipster pick,
I
but
feel like a lot of because that might, if we do a Nintendo 64 list, that might make it to mine. A lot of these series I didn't get to play until the 64 because of my age.
see, like that's
Intergasting.
I was born in '92, so it's like I wasn't there when it was launching and stuff. But that's what I grew up with was Super Nintendo. Like that was the system. You know, I would get an allowance, or I would go and like rake people's yards up in the mountains. You could do like simple chores for people. And when I was growing up, it was easy to just go to yard sales and get games for $5 and stuff. So
All right, super cool. All right, so Brandon, whichever.
Yeah, I want to
know-
say
I
my
know
name
it's
is
Brandon.
actually Brandon.
His name's actually Brandon,
But-
Jason, but I always call him Brandon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You can call him whichever you prefer.
Sounds good, Brendan. Thanks,
Cool.
Brendan.
No worries.
All right, man. What's
Cool.
your number 5?
So mine is, it's a part of a trilogy, so it was kind of difficult to pick out the one I like the best. But this one I have the most memories with, so I'm gonna go with Super Return of the Jedi.
Oh.
Yeah, not only.
Oh
'cause-
wow. Okay.
Not only because I'm a diehard Star Wars fan, but Jesus Christ, that game was so much fun as a kid. Like, just you can get through the entire level just flipping with your lightsaber. It was
Oh, so that
cool.
one was beatable.
Yeah, they were all beatable.
That means
All you had to do was jump and
it's a
double
meme.
jump. I love those games, dude. They had cheat codes I had them memorized at one point. That's like the
super
only way to
cool,
get
man.
through most of it.
I mean, yeah, I personally haven't played much of those ones. All I've been told by people is one, they're great, but secondly, they're hard.
Yeah, well,
Like,
you
just
say the
very
same thing
hard.
about Bloodborne.
yeah.
So
I mean, that's what I've heard, man. I haven't personally
See,
played it.
that's the thing, though. Is that they're hard but doable, and that's a very like distinct difference between like just hard and difficult.
I think that's why I enjoyed it. Like, I persevered through all of them because it's Star Wars. Obviously, I'm going to do it. So it's like, no matter how hard it was, I was going to keep doing it until I won.
like yeah, it's definitely a game that's enjoyable to play. Whereas I feel like people play Ninja Gaiden on the NES just
No,
as a rite of passage.
Yeah, exactly. There's no fun in that.
It's like this isn't fun, but I have to do it as a gamer. It has to be done.
It was pretty fun.
So,
It's a good game.
Team
but-
It's not
Ninja-
bad. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it's definitely one of those ones where it's like, ooh, okay, let's do the 7th inning stretch here.
All right.
Those guys have always been great with games. Like Neo, I just have to shout out that because it's phenomenal.
All right, super cool, man.
I want
So-
to say something real quick about your choice here.
Yeah,
Yes.
So
super cool.
I feel like so yeah, I mean, Return of the Jedi is an absolutely wonderful game, and I feel like they fine tuned it and they made it a little bit more towards what people wanted. Let me just explain briefly what I mean. So before that, obviously, Super Star Wars came out. That was back in like '92, right? I think it came out sometime in '92.
Something wrong.
And I think people played it, and their first their first thing was it's really difficult, it's really hard. I can't seem to pass these levels. I'm having to like stop and shoot and then move and then stop and go. And I think people kind of wanted a more of like a run and gun in a way. You know what I mean? So in a way,
That's
it's
true.
almost like they listened to the feedback of it being so difficult. And then, of course, Super Return of the Jedi it really was that, wasn't it? I mean, it almost was kind of like a run and gun. You could definitely almost speedrun this. And people do speedrun this. Like, I don't know if you've
yeah.
watched games done quick, but I mean, a lot of people, they speedrun this shit. And it's
Yeah.
pretty fantastic to watch.
Especially the
So
first
I
episode.
feel like it's kind of, if you're going to play a Star Wars game on the Super Nintendo, Super Return of the Jedi, I mean, they're all good. How can I say any of them are bad? They're really
Right.
not. They're great games. They were done right. But yeah, Super Return of the Jedi definitely has more of that run and gun, where I think it's just more exciting for
And
me
it
personally.
is. Like, absolutely. You can go through the entire first level just jumping through, not even knowing how the level works. As long as you stay high enough to where you're not going to fall in a pit, you can get through the whole thing as long as you just keep running.
All right.
Yeah, man, this is back in those days. I mean, games back then, right? Developers, they didn't give a fuck. They just made the game. They made these games hard, right? I mean, there is no hand holding anymore, and I miss that. Like, okay, I'll be honest. Like, some of these games, like, I kind of need my hand held a bit. All right, like I'm not like super brainiac crazy, like amazing, but you know, playing a game and you can, when you overcome that obstacle or that challenge or that, like, I find when I get mad at a game like Super Star Wars, I'm fucking pissed at that game still. I'm still mad at it because I can't get through it. It's really hard, but that's a game that I'll go back to because I am mad at it. And when I find that I'm mad at it, I find that I love it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just the way I've always been. I mean, obviously, I love this game, and I never really found it very difficult. But like, my favorite game of all time is like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3. And at no point in playing any Souls game did I ever find it difficult. And that's why it always confused me when people talk about how difficult these games are. And I'm like, are you playing it right? But at the same time, I don't like tutorials. But like you said, you need your handheld sometimes. But my biggest thing is I hate tutorials, which is what drew me to those games in the first place, is that there were no tutorials. I got to figure it out on my own. And I think that's why, because you just have to be patient and learn on your own pace. But people are expecting, okay, when is it going to tell me what to do? When's it going to be nice?
See,
I think it's a perception of difficulty. Were you gonna say?
Yeah,
Well,
that
I was
too.
gonna say that I like that, like when they don't hand hold it for you, because you only ever get one, oh, that's how you do it moment.
Exactly.
There's like that never happens again until you have a totally different game, and you only get, you can only beat the last boss for the first time
Right.
one time.
No, like, I can say, I think the longest fight I ever had in, like, I'll just say a Souls game because those take a long time, was Artorias in Dark Souls 1. And it took me days, but at no point was I ever pissed or anything. Like, I was so happy every time he killed me, maybe because I just love the character so much. But it was so much fun. Every time I saw that you died screen, I had a big old smile on my face. Went right back into it. It's a blast.
Me and you are such different people, but
I
that's
know.
totally fine.
Time for number
All
4.
right, yeah, we're gonna move on to our number 4. I don't have that kind of voice. Number 4. Yeah, I can't. Anyway, all right, Mr. J. Heine, what is your number 4, my man?
Oh my gosh, number 4.
There we go. That's perfect.
There, sample that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, I'm throwing down on the amazing Chrono Trigger for my number 4.
Hey!
There it is.
Hey, it made it.
I knew it would be in here. Yeah.
It has to be. I mean, I'm sure someone else there's
I
got to
won't
have it in
say
there too,
names,
but we won't name names. But let me just talk just briefly about it again. I don't need to go into any of the backstory. I think everyone knows it's a cult classic, an amazing game. But just a few things that are on my list here for it. So Chrono Trigger, released March 11th, 1995. It was produced by the amazing team, actually known as the Dream Team at Square, at the time Squaresoft. It's the same guys that were behind the Final Fantasy series, the Dragon Quest series, and a bunch of other games, but they were directly involved in producing this game. So when you get that, all right, when you get that right, you put pioneering, absolutely brilliant people behind a game with an incredible story and the budget of something from Square and Nintendo, you're going to have magic, and that's exactly what happened.
And
Yeah.
let's
The
not
game is
forget the art
revolutionary.
style of Akira Toriyama.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game it revolutionized so many things. But first and foremost, a lot of people may or may not know this, but it was a dynamic experience. So when you played Chrono Trigger, the direction of the game it would change. The stories, the side quests, everything would kind of change dynamically depending on what you would do in the game. In fact, a lot of people know this, but I'll mention again in case someone doesn't. Because again, we are hopefully maybe educating and learn some people listening are wanting to know about this stuff. There are 13 different endings in Chrono Trigger, depending on which characters you played and how you went about your quest. That had never been done before, and that is an amazing achievement.
I was about to say 12, so 13. There you go for.
But there's more for the DS. I think that's what I'm thinking of. For the DS release,
they might have because they added cutscenes in the DS as well.
Yeah, there was when they ported it, they did some light changes here and there, and I believe I don't know for sure, so I don't want to say, but I think the endings were altered a bit. Either there's more or less, something like that. This was really a game that, for me personally, it really got me into RPGs. And prior to that, I was kind of playing like adventure games. Like I had like King's Quest on like my little Apple Performa 450 from like 91. Like I'm dating myself, but I was playing like King's Quest. I was playing like Rebel Assault and a couple of earlier games. So getting into the actual RPG side of it, like I didn't play Final Fantasy on NES at all. I didn't even know it existed. Like I played Zelda and Link and all that, but I never played a Final Fantasy game, so I wasn't really educated on this whole turn-based. Like what's HP, what's MP, what the hell's all this reading? Fuck all this reading, right? I'm an arcade guy. Like I wanted to put a quarter in and crash into some shit and be done. So, but this was a game that really got me into RPGs, and it really did change my life completely on that. And I think it's a brilliant game. It's one of the most perfect games ever produced. I absolutely love Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, it hurt to not put on the list for me.
It hurts me.
Like it's one of those games. Like I always say, it seems like every one of these lists we're all molded by our experiences. Chrono Trigger didn't make my list, but it's not because I know it's like not a good game. I just didn't.
I've never you personally.
Yeah, exactly. I never personally spent that much time with it. I've always objectively seen that it's a fantastic game, but I've never actually spent the time to play through the whole thing. So I would feel wrong. I would feel like I don't know, like a poser being like, oh yeah, Chrono Trigger's on my list, and I only played like 10 minutes of it.
And that's really what breaks my heart about the Super Nintendo Classic is it doesn't have it. So people can't really get that experience.
It doesn't have Turtles in Time either.
Oh no, that's a beat 'em up. But it's an RPG. Come on.
Yeah, they put Secrets on there though, so there is that.
I wanted to say one last thing before we move on for it, and I know everyone's just what you were saying there, Andrew. Like we all should definitely don't feel bad about whatever it is that you pick. These are just our personal opinions, right? These are just our personal experiences. And for me personally, like I kind of feel bad. Like my list, it is honestly, it's every list out there that you like look up, you will see these games in it. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be cliched. Let me tell you, I grew up with these games. I played these games when people were like, they're fun, they're good. Like I was there. Like I waited with my mom at Target to get fucking Chrono Trigger. I remember it. So it's like, I don't have any shame whatsoever. People want to talk about it, you want to bring it up, you want to go there, like, let's talk about it. I would love to get so down for it. Yeah. I'm not just like going to IGN and picking their top 20 list. Like, dude, come on, So don't feel bad, whatever. Like, if you didn't, like, Andrew, you didn't have time, like, you didn't experience Chrono Trigger, dude, you've got plenty of time in your life to do it. It's a brilliant game if you choose to. And if you don't, no shame. Who cares?
See, it's kind of a beautiful thing, though, because not having played it before, I could always experience it for the first time.
Right. You still have that.
I still have that. And when you talk to a lot of gamers, when you ask them what they want is they want to experience their favorite game again for the first time. And you never know. My favorite game of all time is the original Kingdom Hearts. I actually sent you a copy of Kingdom Hearts, Jason, because you said you never got into it, if you remember that. But
I do, actually. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, but it's one of Chrono Trigger could be my new favorite game of all time.
It could become that, yeah.
Exactly. And so it's kind of cool in that respect. I know it's a great game. Totally. I love that that's number 4, Jason. I'm sure a lot of people would have that in their top 10, 5, number 1, top 1.
Exactly. There we go.
Exactly. All right.
For sure. It was groundbreaking, for sure.
All right, so we're going to go ahead. My number 4 is a game that is on the SNES Classic. It is Super Punch-Out.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
a fun one.
Yeah, man. The sequel to the original Punch-Out, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, that was on NES. I go by Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, not
Mr. Dream.
Yeah, not Mr. Dream, because I just think that's stupid. But man, Super Punch-Out, it just took everything that the original was and upped it to 10. And, you know, it had a lot of the same cool game mechanics, but updated graphics, more bosses, and just everything that you would want out of a game. I'm not typically into puzzle-style games, but weirdly enough, Super Punch-Out kind of feels like a puzzle game.
Yeah, it kind of
kind
is.
of
It's
is.
like a
Quick time event game.
Yeah, it's like you have to be super precise with your timing,
very
especially
pattern
later on.
recognition, especially.
Yeah, you know, it was one of those games that frustrated the fuck out of me to beat it because I feel like I never learned it properly and I just got really lucky at it.
And yet Bloodborne was too hard for you?
I know. Look at this guy.
It's the same thing. You watch the enemies, you learn their moves, and you counter it.
I don't know. I don't.
It's too complicated.
It's too complicated. Super Punch Out has much less buttons. No.
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
not-
It's a very fun one. I enjoy Super Punch Out. I probably play the original one more than I play Super Punch Out still, like when it comes to randomly playing games today. But maybe that'll change with the SNES Classic. Like,
Yeah, maybe, you know, once you get the SNES Classic, you play this one again, you're like, oh, wow, you know, this is better
Yeah.
than I remembered.
mhm.
Yeah, it's great, man.
Yeah, you
I-
got to revisit it. It's a great game.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those games I was super glad they announced for that because I
Yeah.
feel like it kind of gets lost when people think of Punch Out. They think
Yeah,
of
and
the
they
original.
think of the original only, which I find is surprising because Super Punch Out is very much a great game.
Yeah, it is.
Visually, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it looks way better. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, okay, it's Nintendo to Super Nintendo, but still, they put a lot of like detail and looks into it. So.
You know, I mean, people remember the first Punch Out very fondly, but I feel like after that, Punch Out's been a very like under the radar game. The Punch Out
Yeah.
game that came out on Wii was really good.
It was good,
But-
but no one played it.
It's coming back though. I mean, they even put Little Mac in Smash
Mac
Brothers.
was
in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's. I feel like it's almost gotten to that cult classic thing. And I know it's kind of a cliche now, but I feel like other than the first one, it's a very forgotten series. But anyway, I absolutely adore it. That's why it's my number 4. All right, Con Man, what is your number 4?
Ooh, my number 4. We're going with Yoshi's Island.
Oh,
Ah, all right.
And that was hard because I was like throwing Super Mario All Stars, Super Mario World, and then I was like, but
Yoshi's Island.
Yoshi's Island. I put so much more time. I don't know. Like growing up, it was the
So
one.
good.
The crying.
Except that, yeah. Oh, Jesus
But
Christ.
if you're good, that doesn't happen. No.
Yeah.
See, like Yoshi's Island to me, it hit the hardest for me. Like that was the one I played more than the other Marios on Super Nintendo. And it was funny because I originally wasn't putting it on the list, and then it like dawned on me that Yoshi's like for some reason it was like in the recess of my mind, and then like there was just a little voice inside my head. I was like, "Hey, you idiot! Put this on there. You know you want it." And I was like, "Oh, duh, that has to
That's
go
really
on there."
funny because like I played that game probably more than most games on Super Nintendo, but I completely forgot about it because it comes second nature.
And it's
like you just like, oh,
yeah, it's like
duh.
it has this like little backwards like dreamscape in the back of your mind.
yeah.
That's almost how I felt about Super Mario All Stars.
Mhm.
Like that's just another one that almost made my list. That it was like, oh, but then like I forgot about it at first because I
Yeah.
played it so much.
See, Super Mario All Stars was my initial like I grabbed that one because Super Mario Brothers 3 on there is like the best version of Super Mario Brothers 3, and then I was like, okay, then there's Super Mario. I was like, no, duh, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's like that's the best,
Yeah.
Ah.
and it has the Super FX chip. It was like
It was
it
beautiful.
was yeah, and it was one of the only one. What was it? What was the other one that used the Super FX 2 chip? Was it? It wasn't
Quite
Star Fox,
quite a
was it?
few
Star Fox
actually.
2,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, yeah, but it really put it in there. It had that 3D like kind of scoping.
Sometimes on
looks.
bosses, yeah.
Yeah, it just looked really cool, and it was so much fun. It's like difficult, like we've been saying, it's difficult but doable.
It's
And
so fun. Like I feel like it's more puzzle solving than difficult. Like you
Yeah.
just kind of figure it out instead of just running through it
Mm-hmm.
because you have to use your shooting
and
the
it had
eggs.
all the special abilities where you change into like a helicopter. And
Yeah,
all that.
that was fun too.
Yeah, it has so much charm to it too.
Yeah.
Like I feel like this might be a little weird to say, but Yoshi's Island is the prettiest Mario game in the sense of like not maybe
I agree.
cutest
I
Mario
think I
game.
agree with there. I mean, like Mario Galaxy is probably a very close contender because that just, especially 2, it just has that nice gleam to it.
Yeah.
But this one, it's very unique. And if you see any screenshot of Yoshi's Island, you're like, that's Yoshi's Island.
Yeah, because that art style hadn't been done before in a Mario game, and now all of a sudden
No.
that's everything on like the Wii U.
Yeah.
And,
Now they're just trying to make all of their characters into upholstery.
yeah, that's what I mean, like paper, yarn, and whatnot. But like that aesthetic didn't catch on till after.
Yeah. And I was gonna say that's always the biggest shame to me. It's like Yoshi's Island's so amazing. I haven't really felt like comfortable with any of the Yoshis that have come after it. Like Yoshi 64, I wasn't really big on it.
Oh yeah.
Woolly World
And
was really good.
It
I own it on
It was
3DS.
just really easy. Was my only thing with it. It was almost like it was specifically made for kids.
Sure. I mean, that's why I really enjoed Kirby's Epic Yarn also, but that was also, it was really, you couldn't
Yeah.
die in the game.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You mean Kirby's Epic Yawn?
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude.
Oh shit! I
God.
went there.
You don't
Where's
have
that
any,
ice?
you don't have
Where's
any
that ice?
fucking blowhorns?
Went there.
That's close enough.
Yeah, I just got this soundboard set up, man.
How could you not think of blowhorns?
Next
Hey, man.
time
You have
you
to
will have
bring
all
those
of the
in.
horns. You know what? Do you want to hear? You know what? This is all
Here's-
of the sound
Andrew,
effects.
how dare you invite me on the show, Mr. Pioneer of the soundboard himself?
Yeah, I know.
and you-
I know. Here, this is what I have, man. I have like
Not
the
have the
chaotic
most
radio
epic
things. You
soundboard.
know, like
It's raw, it's uncensored, it's live 24/7. It's chaoticradio.com.
right.
Tika.
I have all of those, and then it's just like, and then I have, and this one's just for Jason. Now, mind, I couldn't find the fucking effect, but you'll get the drift.
Is that Lugia?
It's a whale.
That just is a whale.
Is it
and their whale on.
Jason will,
It's just taking me back. Haven't heard this
Jason
shit
will
in a long
get that.
time.
I was looking. The reason why, like, legitimately, I couldn't get this fully set up is I was looking while I got into studio for like fucking half an hour looking for the whale sound effect you used on the All Gen Gamers podcast. And I could not find it.
I know. I've had people actually write me quite back in the day. They used to write me all the time. Can I get the whale sound effect? Send it to me, please. DM that shit to me. I'm like, nope.
Find your own whale, bitch.
There's only one whale, you bitch.
Yeah, so that's super cool, man. Miguel,
Yo.
what's your number 4, bro?
All right. It was an honorable mention. Star Fox. Right.
Hey.
That was.
Oh, hell yeah.
I spent. I never beat it because I was a child.
Really?
I spent so much time playing that game.
Wow.
Like, fuck, dude. I never beat. What's that
Dude,
game?
please go back and play it. You can speedrun that shit. You can absolutely do it.
You're gonna with the
Yes, sir.
classic, yeah.
Super
And,
Nintendo
and we
Classic.
get Star Fox 2 is coming
Is the
up.
first one on there too?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
1 and 2. You have
shit.
to play the first level of 1 to unlock 2. That's what
Oh,
they did
that's
on it.
insane.
So they're like, you can't just go to 2. You have to play 1 a little.
That's crazy.
Fuck, this feels intense again. Oh man. I don't even remember the names of the levels. I just remember being pissed. No.
I know,
Because
right?
I could never be. What's his name? Andros?
Yeah.
That was 64.
Oh, was that
Was
60?
he in?
This is,
No,
this is,
he's the like giant polygonal head.
yeah,
Yeah.
he looked right here. There he
Yeah,
is.
that dude. He's not Andros, is he? He's something different.
But yeah, so why was it like? Why is this one your number 4? I mean, it's a great game,
Dude,
but-
it's like, well, I didn't play F-Zero, so it's like the 3D, like moving through a world. Dude, my game library was limited by my older brother. He was the one that got to pick
Gotcha.
the games and shit. It was his console technically, and this was one of them. And this is one of the ones I chose. Like, it was so weird, like moving in a 3D space that looks like this. Like,
Right. This just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So it's a great game. Like a lot of people talk crap on it, like after 64 and everything came out.
Yeah,
No,
but
it's
Because it's
still,
like,
look
yeah,
at
it has
it. Like
frame
it's,
issues. Oh.
It's one of those
Hardly.
games that if like you don't really know the history of it and you go back and look at it, it probably looks like garbage.
Not even. I wouldn't even say
No,
that.
but I mean,
No.
like if you talk to a lot of gamers today,
Right.
that's probably their opinion. I'm not saying that's my opinion, but if you were to ask the average gamer, what do you think of this game? They're probably not going to hold it in the same regard as someone who played it when they were younger.
Play it,
I
yeah,
would
or can appreciate
exactly. I would be
technology.
more
Right.
than happy to be wrong about that. Like that would actually bring me great joy to be wrong about
I
that.
have actually heard people talk crap on it, and
That's
I'm like, really?
fucking dumb. It blew my mind as a child because of how it looked, and it's blowing my mind right now seeing screenshots
I
of
know,
it. There's
I'm looking at it
fucking
like,
polygons.
shit.
There are models.
They're actual models of the
it
Super
looks
Nintendo and
like
everything. Yeah.
like it could be on like PlayStation 1
Right,
and not
those are-
nobody would question it, you know?
Those are rendered objects in a 3D space. Well, they're probably not actually.
I'm telling you, people don't understand. Not to interrupt you guys, I agree completely. I think people don't understand what an achievement in technology and graphics the FX chip brought and has done for the Super Nintendo specifically. I mean, like, I have a fetish for flat shaded polygons. I just do. I mean, I was in '92. I played Virtua Racing for the very first time and fell in love. And I hard driving, dirt track FX, a bunch of other games like Stunt Race FX. Oh god, it's so good. Terrible frame rate, fucking terrible, terrible. But the game is incredible, and the flat shaded polygon look is, I don't know. I think it's something that, I don't know. I think you either love it or hate it, but it's beautiful in my opinion.
Definitely.
That's super rad, man. All right, Brendan, what is your number 4?
Did we skip over Connor, or did you already go?
No,
Connor
I
already
was
said
Yoshi's
his. He was
Island.
Yoshi's
Okay.
Island.
Mine was difficult. I went back and forth with my number 4. Because the other one didn't even make on the list. But my number 4 is going to be Kirby's Dream Land 3.
Oh, that's a good one.
Hell yeah.
Nice, yeah.
It was either that or Earthbound, and I was like, I have fonder memories with Kirby.
And then you decide, what was your 5 again?
Super Star Wars.
And you decided that was
That was
beat Earthbound
that was
as well.
automatically on the list, no question.
Oh, okay.
This is another fluffy, cute, like
So
identifiable
good.
game. It's so much fun.
I don't remember the other 2 before it, but I don't think it had the mounts. Because that was like a big thing with this one was like getting
Yeah.
the birds and the hamster, and
hamster,
everything.
yeah.
And then different abilities with each one of those. That was like the funniest thing, playing with somebody and they would take your mount that's better with your ability.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. That's what's good about being player 1 is you can suck in the little blue guy and take his power.
Is that a slime from Dragon Quest, or does that just
No.
look like a slime?
Just
from
looks
Dragon
like
It definitely
Quest?
looks like one, but it's not. Yeah.
Okay. So man, that's super cool. I love the Kirby series.
Love it.
Superstar almost made my list.
And those sound effects, like every time you get hit, like you don't want them to get hurt, but it's so cute that you can't help but just get hurt just to hear it.
Yeah. I feel you, man. All right, so
There it is.
there we go. Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. Run fast, run fast.
All right, that's super rad. I keep saying rad because I feel like we're talking about I don't know.
We're in
best
the
time
90s
era,
right now. We're in
right?
the 90s.
All right, Jason, what is your number 3? We're gonna try to go through everyone's number 3. We got about 15 minutes left in the first hour before
Really?
we need to go on a commercial break.
Shit.
And we're gonna try to go through everyone's number 3, and then we're gonna do number 2, number 1 in the second hour, and take some phone calls. But all right, Jason, what's your number 3, man?
Number 3, folks, March 9th, 1996. The stage is set. Super Mario RPG is released.
Woo!
Yes. Come on, look at this. 2 RPGs back to back. I feel like there was a magical time in gaming. In fact, I've been wanting to make a YouTube video on this for like, I don't know, 10 years. I've been thinking about this. There was a magical time in gaming. It was from 1994 to 1996. There was just, these 3 years were incredible. Super Mario RPG absolutely is instant magic. Of course, developed by Square and Nintendo. And when you have the amazing backbone, the incredible talent of Square, backed by Nintendo, first party, they are saying, Squaresoft, you guys are champions. Why don't you make an RPG with our beloved first party Nintendo world? Holy shit, folks. This is instant magic happening. This was the very first RPG that was developed inside the Mario universe. Incredible stuff. And just a few small little text specs about it here. It took them about a year, just over a year, just developing the graphics, the technology behind it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later on in some of my other games here up higher on the list. But they used advanced computer 3D modeling, which they called ACM, which I'll talk about that a little bit later. But they used different techniques with shadows and rendering the lighting, doing the little tricks here and there to simulate depth within their 3D space. So if you look at this game, you're going to instantly see, wow, this game looks amazing. It looks unlike anything I had seen before. That's because this type of technology, especially being used on the Super Nintendo, was brand new, and they were definitely taking a risk. But the game itself, it is an absolute perfect blend. It's ease of accessibility. It's one of those games where you don't have to be an RPG brainiac to figure it out. It's very open and welcoming to even new players. And I think that's why I really like that. I had, like I said before, I hadn't gone too deep into RPGs prior, So I needed something a little easier for my skill level at that time. So I really fell in love with it. And it's just one of those games that you can always go back to. It has incredible replay value. It never gets old. The Mario character, the music, honestly, my girlfriend and I, Stephanie and I, we play through this game like once a year. We just go through and complete it. It's
Nice.
so much fun. We really, really love it. And just one little interesting tidbit before I'll shut up about it. Mario RPG 2 actually was announced. I don't remember the name of the show. It was some show in Japan, some games, something or rather, back in the day. Nintendo did announce that they were going to do an RPG 2. However, it did change last minute to Paper Mario upon its release.
Oh,
I still like that one.
makes sense.
So, and say what you want about Paper Mario, love it, hate it. I'm kind of like meh on it overall, but still a great game. But Mario RPG, oh my gosh, incredible game. If you haven't picked that up, definitely pick that up and play it.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
couldn't agree with you more.
It's one that I personally haven't played, and I've been excited to play forever. It's on the classic coming
Well, it
out.
has to be.
See,
Yeah,
there you
and
go.
that-
Oh, I
that's-
just got goosebumps just thinking about it, man. If you're
Yeah.
gonna like Andrew playing Chrono Trigger for the first time, like if you're gonna play RPG for the first time,
It's amazing.
oh man,
Me and you,
seriously, clear the schedule, dude.
me and you, let's just play. You'll play Super Mario RPG, and I'll back to back. I'll be playing Chrono Trigger, and we'll both just at the same time.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might
you
not
guys
be
do
good
that
to be
in
in the
the
same
same
room.
Yeah,
So because I haven't played
I
either
know
one.
Andrew likes to sit with no pants usually, so you're gonna have to figure that out.
Jason,
Well, playing Chrono Trigger.
how do
some
you
other things are
know
gonna
I'm
happen.
sitting here with no pants on right now? I'm in the
Is
engineer's
there any
room.
other way? Is there any other way? I don't think
Jason,
so.
That's not a problem.
Jason, are you wearing pants right now?
No.
That's a dumb question. You know the answer to it.
Absolutely not.
No, you guys got to do this like in like Connor's living room or something. Like both of you playing at the same time, so I can watch both at the same
You
time.
don't. You want to watch?
Dude, I haven't played either.
I feel like that'd be a really cool live stream, but a very
You haven't
hectic
played
live
either.
stream.
I
Like
haven't
having
played either of
both
those
games
games.
going on at the same time and both of our
RPGs,
commentary.
3 guys, 1 stream.
One day. I mean, sorry. All right. So, man, my number 3, it's a game that I didn't find until way later, like middle of high school, right? It's called Wild Guns.
Wow.
Oh my God, yeah.
Wild Guns on the Super Nintendo. It is.
Oh, that's an
a-
RPG. I've heard of that one.
It is not. That's
Is
Wild
it?
Arms.
Oh, that's right. That's what I'm thinking of.
Wild Guns is, for the lack of a better term, like a light gun-ish
Yeah, I
game
was gonna say like a what do they call it?
on Super
gallery
Nintendo.
shooter.
Yeah, like a gallery shooter, but it has like everything you would want in it. It's super fast-paced. It has a great soundtrack. The visuals are amazing, and it just, I don't know, man. It's amazing that the Super Nintendo, without a gun, like a physical gun, an arcade gun, can make a game like this feel so smooth.
I was gonna say, is that difficult with a D-pad?
No,
that's what I was
it's
thinking, yeah.
not.
Really?
That's
One
the
I've not
amazing
played,
thing.
so-
Like, it's super fun and super easy, you know. The other day, I was playing a game, I think it was called Blue Conspiracy or something along those lines on the PS4, and it was trying to be like a light gun game where you were holding the controller and aiming it at the TV with a sensor. It was fucking terrible, right? Like, but Wild Guns did it without a gun using a D-pad, which seems like it would be worse.
It
but
seems like it
it, would,
sounds.
it seems like it would be
counterintuitive.
horrible. Like, but it's awesome, and it has local co-op, like almost, you know, fucking
like every old
like
school game. does.
exactly. It was one of those games that even like I would hang out with people who weren't into retro games, and they would love this game. They would be able to hang out with me and run and gun and do this different kind of shit. Super cool. Jason, have you ever played this one, man? Am I alone? I assume you guys haven't played it because you guys all looked at me like I'm fucking
Yeah.
crazy in there.
Dude,
but
yeah.
They remade it on the PS4 apparently.
Yes, I knew about it.
Wild Guns Reloaded, it's called.
Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, it just recently got a re-release. You absolutely should pick it up. Absolutely buy it, because if you were to find this on Super Nintendo in physical form, you're going to pay a lot of money to get it. You know how people today, you think of hybrid, you think of Toyota Prius. And you know what we say to ourselves? Fuck that. But today, yes, I am going to tie this in with Wild Guns. Yes, I'm going to do it. But today, when you think of a hybrid type of a shooter, you think Wild Guns. Folks, this is a game set in Western, old Wild Wild West, but the enemies are futuristic. Did you? I mean, Andrew, I know you played it. So, like, when you play it, does that even make sense? It's crazy that it does. It completely makes sense. But
Yeah,
when you think about, like, on paper, it's like, what the fuck is this?
No, it's like the Super Nintendo version of the Daniel Craig movie, Cowboys and Aliens.
I was thinking that.
Totally. And you know, I love light gun games. Love them. And I hate playing light gun games with either with a controller. I'll even use mouse if possible. But this game, it's like second nature. It's something you don't even notice. Of course, it's Natsumi. I mean, they went through it and they made sure that this game was absolutely on par, ready to go, works perfect out of the box. And the animations are incredible. The graphics look so good. The gameplay is phenomenal. Yes, Andrew, I love this game. It's a great choice, sir. Great
Fantastic. I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I'm kind of known. I know. Well, Jason, you wouldn't know this, but everyone in the room, I kind of always have like the weird, not known indie picks. It feels like no one knows, so it feels so gratifying. Like the last 2 weeks with John and you to be like, no, I've played this game. I enjoy this game. It's like giving me my Willikers all G'd up, if you know what I'm saying.
Wow.
What the fuck was that phrase?
I don't know, man. Just put it on a fucking t-shirt, sell it.
No.
All right, so we only got a few minutes left. Con Man, let's go with your number 3, and then we're going to take a quick break.
It was mentioned earlier, actually, as Ninja Turtles: Turtles in Time.
Hey.
Yeah, my man, absolutely.
Is that why you had to put it number 3?
Yeah. It was man, I've played this game so much. Like, this is my brother's neighbor's friend, like whatever, everything. Like whoever was over, it's like let's just beat Turtles in Time real quick. And this is one of those games where every time I started it up, I would play through the entire fucking thing. I wouldn't just be like, oh, that's level 1, it's over. I'd be like, no, I was committed. Like, and even if I was like, I had something else to do, I had homework or whatever.
No,
I was like,
it's
Turtles in Time has started. It's got to be fucking finished right now. And it's so smooth and perfect.
Right?
It's a great beat 'em up.
Talk about a near perfect port from the arcade.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Agreed completely.
You know, you take some of these games from the arcade and put them at home, and they just don't have the same luster or charm in them. Not necessarily say they're bad games, but
there's
they
always
nailed
something
this.
a little bit that's dropped down usually. Yeah, this one is not a problem.
No,
at
exactly.
all.
If you're talking about beat 'em ups, Turtles in Time is probably most people who played it in the arcades will switch it out one or two between this and the Simpsons
I was
beat 'em up
gonna say
game.
Yeah, the
Simpsons
Simpsons
is
one is
next to it.
fantastic. in the
Which,
arcades,
side
yeah.
note, they need to re-release that.
Please.
But man, it's a perfect pick for me, man.
Yeah,
I love the Hyperstone Heist, which I know is almost the same game.
Yeah.
It's so good. How about you, Miguel? You ever played this one, man?
I only got to rent it.
Rent it.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Man, renting SNES games.
That's an old. That's
I
a.
wish.
I wish that was still a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I
Used to
honestly,
do it every weekend. Loved it.
Right.
I was actually in a conversation with about Brenda. Like, it was just a thing going and getting games or movies or whatever.
Yeah, Blockbuster
That's just
Hollywood
gone.
Video.
That's
See, we
that's
have
not
a-
a thing anymore.
we have a movie rental
is.
place by my
Redbox.
house, right? And they have a video game section, like most of these places have, but their video game section is like huge. They
Oh.
if you go to rent a PS4 game, they have almost the entire library, and if a game comes out, they own it, and you can
Nice.
rent it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like the best. I mean, obviously it's a movie place, but they have the best game library I've seen. Because most of the time you go there and it's kind of just tacked on. They're like, oh yeah, we have PS2 games from 15 years ago, or
Hey, that's cool. That's hard to find nowadays.
or Madden 05. With I'll tell you about it later, Jason. But yeah, it's just
private. No.
with my privates.
Ooh.
That's
Ooh.
talent.
Dear me.
You spin me right round. No,
Oh, sweet Jesus. I mean, obviously, did you said this one was an honorable mention for you, right, Jason?
Oh, absolutely, hands down. And I agree completely. It's one of those games you just sit down, you pop it in, Big Apple, 3 a.m., and you just fucking beat the whole thing, man. You don't even mess around. You just go straight through it. It's a great game, and you wouldn't think this is really important. And I know we got to take a commercial break, so I'll try to be quick. It's one you don't really think about it. It's second nature, but when you play the game, the combat in the game, like there's physics involved, and it just
Right,
feels so fucking good. The sound that they use for the hitting, like when you smack the shit out of those foot soldiers,
You
dude,
beat the fucking shit out of
it
them.
feels so good. I don't know, like Am I alone here? It
no,
feels
then
good,
you
right?
can just add insult and just be like, I'm gonna throw you at the fucking screen. Take
Yeah.
that.
Right?
Yes. So it's very. Not only is it a great looking game. I mean, you were playing some music earlier. That is some of the best music ever in a video game for Turtles, and I will say that it is so satisfying and it's fun to play through. It's not extremely challenging. It's fun. It can be casual if you want, and it's great 2-player.
I completely agree with you, man. All right, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. Jason, just hold on to the line. You're not going to be able to hear the commercials because of the way it's set up.
I'm
but,
fucking out of here.
All right, yeah, so we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
You got it.
Cool.
Oh, we'll just leave. Okay.
Hey, man, can you still hear me, Jason?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So right now on the Chaotic Radio app, it is playing commercials, but we are still live on YouTube.
Hey.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, the
So-
YouTubes.
We'll leave the important stuff out, but we can talk about like random
Yeah.
cool bullshit.
Yeah,
going
you know,
on
if anyone
right
needs to go take a shit real quick in the Chaotic Radio bathroom, you can go ahead, Brendan. I see you're
No, I
taking
need
off
to
your
pee,
headphones.
but thank you.
No, go ahead.
now. I've got this bottle. No.
You got.
If any of you can do a 3-minute super shit, let me know how that happens.
Tactical nuke incoming.
Oh, jeez.
That's great. Man,
Oh,
that whole
man.
time we were talking about games and like Squaresoft and shit, I was like, I always regarded Rare as the king of the Super Nintendo era.
But Squaresoft has so
Square-
much on it.
That was their comeback time. Like they made Final Fantasy and came
Right.
the fuck back.
Yeah, because Final Fantasy was supposed to be their death, and it was like
On NES,
"Nope,
right.
Here we go, and they fucking just
And
took
Su- yeah,
off.
Super
And
Nintendo
now,
comes
now I don't trust them anymore.
You
After
don't?
three Final Fantasy 13s.
Oh,
Dude, okay. But
Times definitely changed for sure.
how have you didn't try 15 at all?
15? No, I have not.
No?
I want to.
No.
That's the new one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance
It's
yet.
like completely different.
Brandon says it's really good.
I definitely want to play. I haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, I want to play
Right.
it too.
It's one of those ones that you're in it for the long haul because it's what is it, like an 80+ hour game?
Something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, Weldon O in the YouTube comment section, in regards to the super shit, said it's called The
reading
Morning After Taco Bell.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I just logged in here too. That's cool. You guys are streaming it
Oh,
there
yeah,
too.
we see you there. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Heine House Entertainment in the house. No, actually, pun and very much intended. Yeah, man. We are live on the YouTube as long English. I'm glad we're not over the actual radio app right now. But yeah, man. I don't fucking
Cool.
Miguel talk.
Don't call it English. Your boss is gonna come in here and yell at you.
Oh, right. So the guy who owns the station, his name's Dutchy, and he's like a super old school punk rocker from England, and he would kick my ass if I blamed things on the English.
How much time do we have?
We got about, let's see,
like
1 minute.
Yeah, let's just say a minute.
All right. Man, dude. Another thing I've noticed when we were talking about games is like
Time flies.
Dark Souls is like
The best.
it comes from everywhere.
They,
Oh, yeah.
It's an
they took a
amalgamation
lot.
of
Yeah,
all
they
the
filled a
fucking-
lot in there. That's what makes me like. It'll one day become the game I play. That'll be the first time I play it ever.
I've had- I
It'll never
gave
happen.
you
I
a
know.
Change your
I have.
life
Yeah.
forever.
I have your copy of Dark Souls 1 in my shelf. Brenda's copy of Dark Souls 2.
My
and then
spare
Dark-
copy.
You don't need Dark
All
Souls
right,
2.
30,
have
Forget
30
about that
seconds,
one.
all
on my
quiet,
PC.
boys.
It's
When the normal BS just won't do. ChaoticRadio.com.
$10. I'm here all day. They got ices? Nacho cheese? Yeah, okay. I'll see you tomorrow. One thing's on my mind, one thing only. How many continues we got till we all get lonely? Forever alone. No. I know I've got about 10. I know I've got about 4. I know I've got about 1. Where's my co-op, son? From left to right, we're gonna rock tonight. We're gonna break that bank. So hey, everybody in the game room, what do you say? What do you say? You gotta get up.
Welcome back to our number 2 of the Kinda Gaming Show here at chaoticradio.com. Again, we are joined by Jason Heine. And,
Yeah.
and everybody else in studio, Miguel, Conman, Brundon.
Hello.
They're still on 3.
Yeah, we're still on 3, dog.
Yeah, you.
Or do you mean number 2 half?
No, the second half.
Oh, okay,
Ta-da!
good.
It's the poop of the show.
I said the second half of the show.
No, you said the 2 of
Our
the
number
show.
2.
You said the number 2
Our
of the
number
show.
2.
Oh, I thought I said the number 2 hour. Did I just say the number
the
2?
Number 2 of the show, yeah.
Oh,
The
whoops.
shit of
We
the
just,
show.
this is where everything just takes a shit.
Yeah, this is the dingleberry.
All right, my number 5 is
All right, so we came in Gamers Alike by Jason Heine. The first song was Get Your Whale On. You can download those probably on iTunes, right? Where are you selling your music nowadays, Jason?
I don't know. I was going to get all this music plug stuff. I appreciate that. You're taking me back here. Yeah, that's some of my gaming stuff there. Gamers Alike, Get Your Whale On, taking you way back in time. All my stuff's on iTunes. You just type in my name, Jason Heine. And thanks for spelling it right, too. I see the picture there. Thanks for spelling my last name right.
Yeah, well, I've known you for so long. I feel like if I spelled your name wrong, you just wouldn't call. You'd be like, I'm not showing up for this motherfucker.
I'm not going to be there. Yeah, all the new stuff. Basically, I have my entire discography, which dates back about 22 years, actually. In fact, you can get all of my stuff on Bandcamp, which is where I'm selling it now. I find that I can push stuff through Bandcamp basically instantly, where iTunes, it takes a little while. Plus, they take their cut. And, you know, as an indie artist, hey, anywhere I can take a little bit more from the pie, I would appreciate. So it's at jasonheine.bandcamp.com. Check it out. Lots of cool stuff. I started doing vaporwave. I started doing all kinds of stuff. My rhythm roulette section. Dude, check it out. All my video game remix stuff, too, man. All these games we're talking about, holy moly, man. I've got video game remix albums with, like, Yoshi's Island and Chrono Trigger and all these games, dude. You got to check them out.
It's like, speaking about vaporwave, I was drinking a Crystal Pepsi at the opening of the show.
All right, so
Enjoy
very
yourself.
nice.
real quick, I'm going to play another quick music selection from Jason Heine from his YouTube channel, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Right on.
Hey, thanks.
Live drum cover. Man,
I take it.
you were just the man of many talents when it comes to music. Anyone, if you haven't seen it, you need to go watch his Roulette series that's on his YouTube channel. Real quick, man. Actually, I know I said we would get started, but tell people what that series is real quick, because I think it's like super
Sure.
interesting.
No, I really appreciate it. I wasn't expecting all this. Thank you. So I basically go out and I blindfold myself, and I go into a record store. I blindfold myself. I pick 3 vinyl records at random. I then come home to my studio, see what in the hell we got, and I try to make a song out of it. And it's totally awesome and a ton of fun. So definitely check it out. It's called Rhythm Roulette. Shout out to YouTube channel Mass Appeal, who has been doing this for years and years and years and years. And I was like, I've been doing this for years too. I want to do it too. So it's tons of fun. So check it out. Rhythm Roulette on Heine House Entertainment YouTube channel.
Dude, yeah, I actually knew about that show. I watched LP's Rhythm Roulette from Run the Jewels, or just himself, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, right. So like a lot of people are doing it. I'm like, hell yeah, I got to get in on this. I love this stuff.
That's a dope show.
Yeah, man, it's super. I love that series, and your entire new transformation of your YouTube channel has been awesome. But we'll get more into that in a little while after we get done with our
Sure.
top fives. Where did we leave off? I know we were on number 3.
Three's here.
All right, so let's go with Brundon. What is your number 3 SNES game?
Number 3, hands down. I hate that it's so low on the list, but it's Super Metroid.
Hell
Alright.
yeah.
Hell yeah. Since just first Metroid, I think was my number 1 on my NES list.
Yeah, I think, you put
Next
that
to
there.
Final Fantasy was close.
See, and that's one
but-
that's like not on my list either, and I was like, I'm gonna kill myself for not doing this, but it's like there's only 5 spots.
I
you
know,
can only
I know.
fit so much.
I love the Metroid series so much. Like nothing will come close to Fusion.
Oh
whereas,
yeah, Fusion in my opinion is the best one.
Technically the sequel to
to Super Metroid.
Super Metroid.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I can't really say enough about it, how perfect that game is. Like, I love open worlds. Side-scrolling open worlds are very unique, and I think Metroid was like the first to ever do that. Because it feels very open. You can go anywhere almost just based on the map. Like, if you can't go one way, okay, go to the other one. Cool, you got a key, now you can keep going.
Can't go left or right, go up or down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can explore as much as you want, and it's like, it's the best game ever. You can skip half the game if you want.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's a very pick up and playable game too. That's what's great about it. And then you can save and it's like, even though you can get confused a lot of times in mini games where it's like, I haven't touched this in forever, I don't know where to go or what to do, you can always kind of just come back to Metro and be like, oh yeah, here's the idea, and then just start going through it again.
At the end of the day, you press down twice, you're a ball. Cool, you go sideways, you shoot your gun.
And you drop balls on other things.
And you drop bombs and balls and bomb balls.
Bomb balls.
Ball bombs.
Bomb ball. I feel like if that needs to be on the case now. Bomb ball, Super Metroid.
The bomb balls. Fuck yeah.
All right, man.
Funny thing about Super Metroid and Super Punch Out too is those are the reverse of like, because it's like being my age at the time, I played a lot of the Nintendo 64 like sequels to a lot of these.
You
games.
didn't get a Metroid on 64.
But Super Metroid and Punch Out, I only played the NES.
Oh,
ones,
that's
the
funny.
first ones.
That's funny.
That was the opposite of my normal experience with these games.
Interdasting.
All
All right, man. So, number 3, Miguel.
Right on.
What's going
my
on?
Number 3, it's not the King of Fighters, but it beats out Street Fighter, all of the Street Fighters for me on Super Nintendo. It beats out Killer Instinct.
Is it MK2?
It's Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah, that was on my Genesis
That's good.
setup.
But Street Fighter 2.
It was close. I was trying to decide between those two. I didn't want to put both of them on because I've got my
Fair.
last two.
Okay.
I need to get in there. Mortal Kombat 2, like, fuck, man. I played so much with my brother and my dad. That was like, oh my god. That was the game my dad played with me the most, like, on games. Like, he eventually got too old for them. He's like, there's too many buttons now.
Yeah.
we got him an Atari Classic or whatever, but it's shit. And it was like crappy infrared.
I can't deny it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have the sweat censoring. It's the legit one.
Yeah,
That's
dude,
right.
yeah, it had
The first
blood
one
and,
had
like,
the sweat.
You throw a motherfucker in the acid and he'd come out and, like, oh man.
Throw the
Just his
motherfucker.
I feel that Mortal Kombat 2, and it's just my opinion, right? We're talking about our opinions and our loves here.
Uh-huh.
For me, Mortal Kombat 2 is the best Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd probably
And
agree.
and when we're talking about the Super Nintendo now, I'm gonna give some respect to Sega and Genesis and say that their first Mortal Kombat, MK1 on the Genesis, was far superior in terms of how brutal it was and the violence. Obviously, it got toned down and turned down quite a bit on Super Nintendo, even though the Super Nintendo version looked better aesthetically.
Yeah.
But I will say, now that's MK1. MK2, okay, cat's out of the bag. We don't give a shit anymore. Nintendo was like, okay, let's be grown up. And MK2
Well, it's
on
'cause
Super
they have a
Nintendo
rating
is
system now.
it's the absolute superior port of the game. It's great.
Yeah, it's a perfect, another great choice, man. Obviously I would never knock down anyone's games, but I've not heard any choices that would make me be like, no, that doesn't.
You were doing that.
Yeah.
Oh well, no.
So
in
saying
regards,
that
in
to
regards
being
to
the
the best Mortal Kombat game.
It
That's what
is
I
the
meant.
best
I like
Mortal
Mortal.
Kombat
I like the Mortal Kombat trilogy game on PS1 the best.
The one
Oh,
that
it's
has
great.
a
That's
collection.
great for you.
The one that what?
The one that's a collection.
Yeah,
That's
like
a
I.
cop out though.
Yeah.
That's just the one I played the most.
Yeah, I know, but it's like that
But
has.
that's not
that-
That's
a
like saying
Mortal
Super
Kombat
Mario
It's like it
All
has-
Stars.
yeah.
Is your favorite Mario game?
Super
I-
Mario
I-
All Stars is the same thing as saying the NES
Yeah.
Mario games.
So.
But that's just me. It has the most fighters. It's I don't know. It's super rad.
As long as you got Reptile.
All right.
That was cool.
So now we're getting to the nitty gritty. Number 2 and number 1. All right, Jason. I imagine at this point when you're writing your list, you are having a heart attack. You're getting the Taco Bell sweats over there. You're getting some splurts going on. What is your number 2, Jason, and with all of your bodily fluids?
Well, I mean,
Still
as soon as I sat down with all four of you gentlemen, I started to get meat sweats already.
Oh, yeah.
So that already was happening. No, but like I said, this has been a very, very. I mean, every game you guys are talking about, I'm totally in love with. I think they're all respectable. They all should be on these lists. So yeah, this is really difficult. Basically, my top 5 are like my top 1. So this is a difficult thing. But okay, It's been mentioned before, and I was a little quiet during it because I had some things I wanted to say too. But I absolutely agree 100% that this game should be on a top list. October 4th, 1995, we got the incredible Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island.
Hey.
And again, you guys said a lot of it, and I don't want to go back and repeat a lot of it, but I will echo, and I will just say that for me personally, I think that this is one of the greatest Mario games that's ever been made. And yes, I know about Mario World, and I love it. I know about Galaxy, and I love it. I know about Mario 64 and how it completely changed video gaming. Yes, I know all of that. I still feel Yoshi's Island 2 is the absolute perfect blend of gameplay, being in the Mario universe, and execution of a Mario game. It's beautiful. The cartoon art style, you guys talked about this already. It is so warm and welcoming and fun. And you know what? You don't, even though it looks like it could be played by a 2-year-old, you don't
Right.
feel like a 2-year-old playing it.
No.
Yeah, it feels like a solid game. It doesn't have that, like, okay, we're going to do this for you.
But those bosses are super cute regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when they all get like huge and blown up and massive,
Yeah.
they're still really adorable.
Especially the first boss, like when you beat him, his
Yeah.
pants go down
Yeah,
and he starts
the big fat
blushing.
guy. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, my pants.
Wow! Wow! I love it. I love it. Yeah, and you know, just to wrap that up, I mean, also, it's one of those games where the controls are so good, and it's something that's kind of overlooked. I mean, there is actual physics. I mean, you throw eggs around, right, and they bounce off things.
Mhm.
There's a lot of depth in this game, using walls, using your eggs, using the physics to bounce off of things. The little arrow, little jump balls that you have to go off of. Depending on when you press jump on those, will determine how high you go. I mean, there's a lot of depth in this game, and it's just one of the greatest one of the greatest platformers out there on the console. It did use the Super FX chip. You guys were talking about this earlier. Not like it did on Star Fox to do the flat shaded polygons. It used the FX chip to take basically the offload of some of the processing. They use the FX chip to help with scaling and creating depth. So when the boss battles happens, all that scaling of the bosses, that was created by the FX chip. It was helping out, basically hand in hand, taking processing power off of the main CPU to do that. It's very, very, very awesome to see that. You know, they also use the FX chip in Doom, believe it or not, to help with
Yeah.
processing. Just a little side note.
But it wasn't a very good port on the SNES, which is why it's
No,
on
it
the
was
list.
terrible. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
The coolest thing about it was the red cart. Other than that, it was
Yeah.
not very good.
It's one of those, like, it's a good shelf hanger.
Yeah,
It's-
that's literally the only reason it's not my number one, because it was a terrible port.
Yeah, see, that's
Yeah.
what you know. I love Doom.
I
I
love
talked about
Doom.
it, and it's
Yes.
like, but it's not on this list just because as a Super Nintendo game, it doesn't make the cut.
Right,
Deserves
it's one of
PC.
those things like Doom, like the source material is so good, but you play this version of it and you're just like, no. It feels
Yeah.
like it was Doom but neutered, for
It
the
was
lack
on
of a
all
better
of
term.
them. Like even PS1 didn't even do well.
No, the best port of Doom was on the Sega Saturn. Just saying.
I brought it
Fair.
up here because this is the thing I was confused about. Because I remember Yoshi's Island had a specific thing about it, and it's not that because there were things that used the Super FX chip, but the Super FX 2 chip, that's what Yoshi's Island had, and then there was Doom on there, the unreleased Star Fox 2. I'm not sure what Winter Gold is. Apparently, that was one of the Super FX 2 chip ones, though. But yeah,
Never heard of it.
So it just had that extra oomph that brought it up there.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
some real reinforcement for it being on these lists. Is like it was Connor's number 4 and a number 2 slot
yeah.
I feel like
from
maybe
Jason.
like I don't know, maybe there's gonna be some overlap
There is
now,
gonna be-
like in
it's
our
gonna
top.
cut into it.
Yeah, exactly. So moving, very good pick. I'm gonna move in right into my number 2, and I'm just going to.
You gonna tease us with music? There it is. Street Fighter. Is it Hyper Fighting? Super Street Fighter? What's
Turbo.
No, Street Fighter 2 base.
base?
Oh.
Base game.
Okay.
Interesting.
It's the one I spent the most time with, and now when I go back to play a Super Nintendo game, I can just play it anytime. Like, it's another one of those games where, like, I feel like I think Connor used this phrase, it's a settle it game,
Yeah.
where you're just, you're like, you and your homie
That's
are
why I
having
bought it
some
on the
problems,
Switch.
and you're just like, no, let's settle this right now, one-on-one, Street Fighter 2, crank that sucker in the fucking Super Nintendo, and I'm gonna
Chun-Li, fuck it
fireball
up.
you 29 times. No, I don't even play.
Settle
that.
this like
Get outta
men.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
What's going on with these alternate boxes?
It's
I
so
remember the
good.
They have a
Blanca
few
one.
different ones.
This is the original. This is
Yeah,
Street Fighter
the
2. Then there's
Blanca.
That's what I
Turbo.
had.
Yeah,
And-
so Street
Oh,
Fighter
the
2,
bundle.
it's a great fighting game, fantastic game. Recently got re-released for the Super Nintendo by Capcom,
Oh, that's right.
5500
they
games,
re-released
Forgot
it.
about
which is
that.
super cool. I'm not sure if you heard Miguel, but they released like 4500 bright red cartridges,
I've seen
and
those. Yeah, those
yeah.
are cool.
Yeah.
super cool. I wish I could have picked one of those
And
up.
then 1,000 Blanca green glow in the dark cartridge.
Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
it's kind of like a chaser thing. You just might get a green one.
Yeah, they
but
didn't let you choose. So 1,000 people out of that buy got
How much
it.
was it? 200?
100.
It was
$100?
$100.
That's it?
100.
Flat.
Yeah, but
Fuck.
man,
Shit.
fantastic game. Like
Oh yeah.
it's kind of what fighting games always compared themselves
What they
to. I feel
are,
like
yeah.
like it was the benchmark. You know, people will argue Mortal Kombat and different things like that, but if you think of a Super Nintendo fighter, like you were Miguel, you were like fighting with yourself between Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. It's one of those things. Like Street Fighter is that game that other fighting games aspire to be.
It was actually kind of a three-way too, because I also had Alpha too.
Oh yeah, Alpha.
And those two were fighting.
Alpha 2 is a fantastic
Tho-
game too.
Street Fighter 2 and Alpha 2 were fighting for me, and then I was like, no, but Mortal Kombat 2 I definitely liked
I don't
more.
know.
Yeah, like Mortal Kombat kind of went through a weird phase for a while Street Fighter never entirely had. I mean, like even like I think there was one super bad Street Fighter game. It was the 3D one on
well,
PS2.
The first Street Fighter was not good.
Well,
but it
I
was-
guess that's true,
yeah.
but you know, Street Fighter 2, all of those, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter Third
yeah,
Strike,
everything else.
you know, it's
The thousands of iterations of each Street Fighter that has come
yeah,
out
exactly.
since.
Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, I hear is getting better. Like
mean-
it didn't start off that great, but I hear it's good now.
There was a
so-
Street
I
Fighter
enjoyed
2
it.
that came out this year.
There
Yeah,
was
exactly.
The Final
Switch.
Challengers, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to think about how timeless a game is, if a company as big as Capcom decides to re-release Super Nintendo cartridges in 2017,
Right.
Well, even for the Switch.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
exactly.
but
Fighter
It came out
2.
on the Switch.
Yeah, exactly.
An
It's-
actual factual new. Here it is.
I know
on
I
it,
have the
yeah.
marketing for it. I took it.
Not even just a. Not even just a. Okay, it's on the like digital sales thing. No, it's a boxed edition with cover art and everything.
oh man. So
Insane.
quick little tidbit, quick little side note. Jason, I'm not sure if you knew this, but I used to work at GameStop, and so did Brandon. I know you are the Game Stopper.
I do work at GameStop.
Oh no, that's
again.
right. You work there again,
Yes.
and Jason is the Game Stopper. He used to do this segment on the podcast called. Well, I don't know. Why don't you explain it? You are the Game Stopper. So
Tiger, tiger, tiger uppercut. Gosh, now you're also taking me back.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, how am I supposed to talk about this with GameStop employees in the room? I mean, come on
just
now.
do it. Just do it. No balls.
I don't make
No,
the rules.
here's here's the thing. It's a segment that I had called Game Stoppers. Basically, I would just rant about the bullshit experience that I have at GameStop.
That's awesome.
But here's the thing.
I
Here's
can do
the
the
thing.
same as an employee.
Right, exactly. And here's the truth. Here's the full truth of the matter. Here's the reality of it. I have worked retail my whole life. I understand completely how this game works. So that's what I don't tell people. Yes, like I know what you have to do. I know the rules. I know what quotas you're supposed. I know the whole game. So, like, it's just the experience sometimes. And of course, you may be an amazing person, and you
Thanks.
obviously are. You're a great guy.
Thank
You're
you.
probably awesome to your customers.
I am.
But that doesn't mean that
Give 'em
everyone
hand
is.
jobs
I've
every
worked
day.
with assholes,
He's
you
like,
know.
as soon as you put
So
on that shirt, I just want to disembowel you.
I wore this shirt.
right. So
All right.
that's pretty much it. I just have you go in. It doesn't matter. You can go in anywhere. I mean, I can go into Taco Bell and get shitty service and rant about it. But I just happen to choose GameStop because
It's something you're
it
passionate
happens
about.
all the time.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
video games are something
to
you're
be-
passionate about. So it's like,
To be fair, there are more shitty GameStop employees than it seems like most retail spaces.
Yep.
And that
I have no disrespect to the GameStop employees. I actually have a lot of respect for the. I have a lot of respect for people who work in the food industry. Like, it is so difficult. You deal with so much shit in there, and the game is terrible, and it's not in your favor, and you put up with it, and you do that. I have respect for you guys. So,
thank you.
my intentions on that was never ever to. I mean, as you notice, I never brought up names. I never talked about specific people.
no, you did not.
I hate GameStop as a company. I hate them as a company and with their policies and what they've done. So, and how they treat their employees and shit, and how management works. And fuck all that,
See,
you know?
the thing is, yeah, it's not the best, but I worked at Disneyland for 5 years, and oh my god, GameStop is 100% times better.
100%
Wow.
times better.
100%
Yes.
times.
Yeah, I've heard
You know
about
what? I would love
Disneyland
to.
fucked
I
up.
would love to sit with you and talk about that sometime. I would find that very fascinating.
Yeah,
Awesome.
man.
I also worked in. I have my license for life insurance salesman, so I've also worked in that kind of sales. If you want to hear about that.
Oh yeah.
All right.
God,
Real
gross.
personable shit.
Con man.
What's
DC, sorry.
up?
What's your number 2, brother?
All right, we touched on it, not it specifically, but Donkey Kong Country,
The
One.
first one.
the first one. And
Is this your number 2? You said?
this is my number 2.
Yeah,
And,
man.
Geez, like we were talking about 3, and like pretty much most of everything we said about 3 applies to the first one. And
that's great.
It's just really good. It's a fantastic game. And I chose 1 specifically because it was one of the first games that I played, and it was, it's something I've just beaten it so many times. I play it all the time. I play it on the Game Boy Advance Micro, and it's like everything. Like
The Micro, you fucking boss. You boss.
this guy.
Yeah, I'm saying it. What a great console.
Yeah, I still play it. Like it's one of the, like Andrew saw me playing one time. He's like, "Is that a fucking Micro?" And he's like, "I bet you have a PSP Go." And I opened my drawer and pull out a PSP Go.
Dude, yeah. When we were,
Dude, I have one of those in the bathroom. Every time I take a shit, it's ready to go.
Oh, it's such a good little guy. It's it's tiny.
It is.
Oh man, but and then the GBA library, like that's the
Oh.
thing. It's like this game
I
is
already-
on there, and you can do everything on GBA that you can almost do on Super Nintendo. It's
I already
fantastic.
mentioned Metroid Fusion.
Right.
One of my favorite games.
So, man, this listen to the track right now. It's like I want to go and play it again right now, and I've been
I am
actually
absolutely dancing in my chair.
yeah, I have been refraining from playing it because I'm anticipating the SNES Classic, and I've been avoiding SNES games for a couple months now, just so that when I get it, it's like, oh, here they all
Is
are
the
again.
first one on there or the second?
The first one is.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the first one is on there, so I love it.
All
Donkey
right.
Kong Country.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely, dude. It's man, as we're getting to the end of these lists, like I'm just falling in love with these games all over again. Like hearing the music and everything. I don't know, man.
It's just
All right.
like, hell yeah.
Miguel,
Me? All right.
what's your number
so,
2, brother?
Man, considering Yoshi's Island's position on the list, I feel like I need to play it because my number 2 is Super Mario World.
Hey.
I think this is the first game I ever played. I can't remember for sure, but I think it is. It's definitely the one I have the earliest memories of learning how to play.
It's a good one.
Because I was a tiny fucking child. I was a toddler. I did not know how to do this shit.
To
and
be
I-
honest, I kind of wish I had your experience because my first game was the first Mario game, the original Mario Brothers.
It's
So-
good. I do play that one a lot.
But
Oh,
Super Mario World though
Yeah.
is
It's
phenomenal.
It's so good, yeah, and the secret levels, that you can just
There's like
unlock.
2 secret worlds.
It's
Well,
like
Secret Star World and then the special.
the whole entire, yeah. But
Oh,
then
yeah.
there's just the super secret zone where you're going off, and it's like, oh, here's all these power ups if you did this weird shit
Exactly.
in the Boo House.
And that was the very first Super Nintendo game I ever played. I remember I got back from my my dad's house over the weekend, right? And my parents, they bought a Super Nintendo and they had it in box, and it was time for me to go to bed because I got home super late, and they were playing it. It was brand new, and I was like, "Can I play?" And they're like, "Yeah, you can." Have, they said, "Yeah, you can have one life before bed." And I had never played before.
Oh my god.
And so I remember they got a little farther, and they put me in the fucking Boo Castle, the first one, my first time ever playing as a small child. And I jumped, and I didn't know, and I just hit a boo right away. And they're like, "All right, time for bed."
No!
No, wait, I didn't.
No!
That's the best.
The next day at school, all I was thinking about was fucking
Fucking Boo.
Mario,
You're like, I need to go back to this.
right?
You
It's-
can't focus on anything else. There's nothing else that exists at that time. It's
Fucking
so
ghosts are
important
supposed
to
to
you.
be transparent.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, I did not understand how it worked, but dude, such a great game, Miguel.
Yeah, no, not only was it, I think, my first game ever, I think it was the first game that, drew me back in, too. Because when it came out on Game Boy Advance, I got that. Because I was like, oh, fuck yeah, it's Super Mario World again. I didn't say fuck yeah, but
Fudge, yeah.
I was like, fuck yeah. My dad was like, excuse me? No, but oh my god, and I poured a ton of hours into that on Game Boy Advance, too.
No, yeah, man, it's just one of those games. Again, like, I think this actually is a testament to the Super Nintendo. You could always go back and play these games.
Yeah.
They've
yeah.
aged incredibly well.
That's I always tell people, like, if there was the whole desert island, you only get one system ever. I'm like, give me the Super Nintendo with its library, and I'll be happy forever.
Yeah.
Super rad, man. All right, Brendan, what's your number 2, man?
I'm like having anxiety because my
It's just getting there.
my 1 and 2, like I can't. It's like picking your favorite child, but this one
Yeah,
I don't have a
exactly.
favorite. You know, like it kills me.
Are you having second thoughts too?
He's
No,
like,
I'm
looking
I'm
for
going back and forth between my 1 and 2 because I'm like, well, okay, so shit.
That's what I'm saying. You're
whatever's
thinking about
written down,
switching
just
them?
go with it.
Okay, the one that's already written down is Final Fantasy VI.
All
Good.
right.
3 in
Three,
America,
six,
but
yeah.
I'm gonna call it 6 because that's what it is. But holy shit, like I can't say enough good things about this and my number 1. But I play Final Fantasy every day still. 14. I go to 15. I play 6, 7, 8 sometimes. I love Final Fantasy a lot. And 6 was something that like you played on the NES, the first one,
Mhm.
because we didn't get 3 and 2 sucks. But it was like, wow, that's cool. But Final Fantasy 6, you can't really explain it. Like, there's a whole opera sequence.
Yeah.
It's all like MIDI, but you still feel emotional to it. It's
Mhm.
like, what? Would they do that?
Yeah.
I'm like at a loss for words and how perfect Final Fantasy 6 is.
just how clean and beautiful
it's
it is.
beautiful.
Dude,
It
yeah.
introduced like Magitech armor, which we still use in Final Fantasy 14, and when you write it, it plays the Final Fantasy 6 music. Brings you back. It's like, oh, jeez.
That was one I didn't have. I got to play it at the Game Boy Advance port when that came out.
Still,
So I didn't get to play the original, so I didn't put it on my list. But that's a good fucking Final
so
Fantasy.
fucking good.
Yeah, man. It's up there for me in
It's
terms of
pricey.
Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, and
doesn't
it's
quite hit my number, my number 1. As I've always said, my favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy 8 on the PS1.
That's so interesting, but I'll respect
But
it.
yeah, Final Fantasy 3, dude, it's a really good. It's perfect RPG. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
But yeah, even getting like the sprites, like all the summons and bosses at that point, like that was the first time we really got to see them in that much detail. And also that they've held their form. I mean, throughout the years they changed in every game, but in 14 specifically, it's still like the same as it was in like 6 and then the remake of 3. So it's just really incredible. Just looking back on it again, and then you get nostalgia for the games that you're playing now because of how it influenced it.
Yeah. All right, man. This is where we get to the nitty gritty of things.
Let me have
Our number 1. I tried. Jason, can you give us a nice manly number 1?
Number 1.
It's beautiful.
Man,
really good.
man, it's like you should do voiceovers or something. Oh wait, you do.
I take PayPal.
All right, number 1 Super Nintendo game. Jason Heine, go ahead.
Well, folks, we've come to this part of the show, and I want to thank you all for letting me be here and talk about this. Again, I'm having to pick my favorite 5 children, and I love them all equally. It's difficult. This has been mentioned before, and I want to say that when it comes to Super Nintendo, for me, when I quickly in my head, I just think about the Super Nintendo as a console, and what comes first to my head. This is the game that comes to my head first. I have the fondest memories with this game. This changed my world so much. This is the first Donkey Kong Country.
Hey.
Oh, wow.
This
is,
is released November 21st, 1994. I want to talk a little bit about this. I have some notes here on it, and then I want to tell a story about it, and then we'll move on. I'll try to keep it brief. I know we got more to do here.
No, go ahead, man. We got half an hour, and we're right near the end of it. So you go ahead and you say what you need to, man.
Donkey Kong Country, in my eyes, is one of the greatest video games, not just on the Super Nintendo, but one of the greatest video games of all time, period. That's saying a lot. And I want to talk about a few reasons why. Donkey Kong Country was so revolutionary. It changed the landscape of gaming overnight. This was one of the first games, not the first, but one of the first to use pre-rendered 3D graphics. It was definitely a first on the Super Nintendo, first of its kind. They were used to create all of the visual landscape that we saw in there. It was a visual achievement, both in the way it looked and also on the technology side of it. And just like a side note, do we see a trend here, folks? SquareSoft, Rareware, first-party Nintendo games, like
Yes.
these, they knew what they were doing. This was like the golden age of gaming. A lot of people do consider these years here the golden age of a lot of console gaming. Just a little side note.
Yeah, I'd say 2017
So-
has been an excellent year in gaming. Just tossing that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I was
Didn't
going to
hear
say
it.
2017 has been an excellent year in gaming so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about damn time, right? We've
Right,
had some years that's been kind of shitty, so it's nice to see it kind of resurge a bit. When they were creating this game, Rare spent an immense amount of money buying new equipment and new technology to try to create these graphics. And, they took a risk. They took a gamble. But again, put yourself in their shoes. Here we are, Rareware, who is basically being bought out by Nintendo. And Nintendo's saying, hey, we're going to give you our blessing. Come in here, be a part of our team, and make these great, amazing games. So they did. They took the gamble. They bought all the SGI equipment to make all of these new techniques and developments in graphic technology. And they did develop in-house techniques. From what I understand, it would allow for better compression of the graphics to allow greater detail. They did actually name it something. It was called ACM. This was used heavily in their marketing, which they had their budget was like $2 million or $3 million for this game
Holy
to
shit.
budget for this shit, if you can
That's
believe it.
Crazy.
So,
Yeah,
I don't know
1994,
if you've
that's
ever
crazy.
heard ACM before from this era. That was part of their. I mean, it was a real thing, sure, but it was used heavily in like a marketing campaign. It stood for Advanced Computer Modeling. Now, I say all this because I was one of the kids that got the VHS tape in the mail because I was subscribed to Nintendo Power. I got that, which was their marketing material, which was hugely successful. Kudos to them.
It was
But-
awesome.
The game was groundbreaking. It was an achievement in gaming. At that point, it definitely set the standard for not only games and that genre of like platformers, but all video games after that. They all looked at this and was like, holy shit, guys, we're going to have to pull our heads out of our asses. We're going to compete with this because I don't know if you remember, but man, PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn was there, and the games weren't looking that good. I'm sorry. They just weren't.
I like
And
PS1.
it was
I think
like-
just fine.
It was an absolute achievement. And so it was one of those moments in time that I respect a lot. I think back to it very fondly. Again, Donkey Kong is one of those games that I can just sit down and speed run and blaze through. I think I can beat it. And I'm not a speed runner, but I can get down. I think I can do it in 24 minutes, I think,
Nice.
start to
Damn.
finish,
That's quick.
That's
which
extremely
which is
quick.
pretty quick,
That's
you
so
know?
Quick, yeah.
And again, I'm not getting like secrets or anything. I'm just like blazing balls to the wall straight through. But yeah, a lot of fun. And of course, just to end this here, there's so much involved with this. David Wise, and he had a whole team of people behind him as well that were composing the soundtrack. It's some of the most beautiful music and fitting music. And as someone who composes soundtracks for video games, I know the importance of putting fitting music with the game so that the audio and the visual, they match up and they work together. He did a brilliant job blending those together. It's unbelievable. And in fact, I've seen interviews with him, and he talked about he actually did some of these songs like as just random like demos, and Nintendo loved him so much that they obviously offered him a job and hired him, but they were just like random songs that he just made on the spot. Like incredible. The guy's a super talent. So, and then talking about the soundtrack, of course, they did release a promo soundtrack. It was called DK Jams. I'm sure a lot of people already know this, but it was called DK Jams. It was released on cassette and also on CD. It was never released publicly. It was kind of a promo marketing material thing. It was given to some retailers at the time as well. And if you can find them today, the cassette sells for around $75. The CD sells for around 100, 125.
Wow.
So, like, as you can see, it's definitely sought after. It's very coveted. It's one of those amazing games that always has held a very special spot in my heart. Now, I'll wrap it up with one last story. That's how I feel about the game. Donkey Kong Country, man. Wow, amazing. Now my story. This is where it really comes together for me. So I got this game when it was new, and it was in the wintertime. And I remember I was living in Oregon at the time, and we don't get a lot of snow in Oregon, at least in the Portland metropolitan area. You know, you do up in the mountains and whatnot, but not necessarily in the city, and we're kind of in the city, we're suburban neighborhood. I was playing this game, and I got to all the snow levels. And if you remember how amazing the snow levels looked, I mean,
Yes.
the snow looked like it was cold. Like, I had to get my jacket on. I'm like, holy shit, I'm freezing. This is crazy in here. It looked so good. The snow and the ice, everything had depth. It sparkled. It glistened. It was amazing. And I was like, in my head, I was so blown away. I was mesmerized by it. I would just pause the game and sit there and stare at it and listen to the music, and and be totally wrapped up in this game. And at the time, I'm sitting there, and at the corner of my eye, it's like something out of a movie. At the corner of my eye, I see something happening outside, and I'm like, what is happening out there? And I look, and I'm like, no, this can't be real. And I went out and I looked, and it was snowing outside, and it was snowing in my game.
Miracle.
And it was a goddamn Christmas miracle. And I couldn't believe it. And it was one of those moments, that I had, and it changed my life forever. It sounds so ridiculous when I'm talking about it now, but it is so important to the whole story of video gaming and why we're even here sitting talking about video games that are 20 years old, is because we love them. They changed our lives. They influenced us. And the people who created them are absolutely brilliant and geniuses, and so we want to pay respect to them. So Donkey Kong Country, thank you so much for the amazing memories, and you will always be my favorite Super Nintendo game.
Beautiful.
Wow.
You're saying it sounds ridiculous. I don't think so at all, man. It's
No, I
fucking
don't
awesome.
think so either.
It is great.
Like that, it's some of our best memories, or some of the best stories come from personal memories that touch us in our heart. And I know I've kind of said this before on the show, but games take us to this place that no other medium can.
Right.
So the fact that you can share that story of why this is your number one, like something that hit you so personal, that's only something you can have, and that it just brings other people joy to hear such things,
Yeah, it's wonderful. Like him talking about that, it's like I can relate on that because it is my number two, and it like a lot of the stuff he was saying, it just echoes like among childhood memories, like on everything.
Yeah, it's like no joke. It's a huge part of who we are because it happened in our developmental years. Like,
Right.
Exactly. I mean, all right. So I'm not. I love your story. I'm gonna move on just because we don't have a ton of time left. I'm gonna go on to my number one. I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on it. It's a game that has already been brought up once. My absolute favorite Super Nintendo game is Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's fucking amazing. It takes everything you want in RPG, and it kind of, dude, it's just so good. The game, everything from gameplay to the story, which it's a simple story, but it was fun. It has one of the best characters I feel like in the Mario universe, Gino, who I want to be in Smash. I know that's like kind of a side note, but it's one of those games. I know earlier we mentioned it's easily accessible to people who aren't into RPGs. My girlfriend and I, we were playing it on the Ubercrit YouTube channel, and she was enjoying it, and she does not like RPGs at all. But I wanted
That's exactly my point, dude. Everyone loves it who plays it. Everyone.
exactly. It takes the best heart and soul of SquareSoft and puts it into Super Mario Brothers and turns it into an RPG that is just amazing, for the lack of a better term. It's a game that touched me in places, and usually when I complain, I complain when things touch me in places,
that's why
but
Mario
I want it
wears
to touch me
gloves.
more. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy.
And you were a kid?
Yeah, no,
What kind of episode is this?
yeah, I saw Peach for the first time, and I felt something.
Those were peaches.
Oh boy. But yeah, man, it's perfect, and I'm gonna move on just because for lack of time, but because I know we've already touched on it also, but it's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Um,
I really want to play
It's a game I want physical. There's a game store by my house. Me and Miguel went over there, and they have a sealed Super Mario RPG in box, and it's $200.
Oh. Do it. Show it.
All right. Anyway,
I
all
remember
right.
that.
So, Con Man,
Me?
what is your number one Super Nintendo game?
It was crazy because we opened with it. It's F-Zero.
Nice.
Yeah, my man. Hell yeah.
It's okay. There's so many things about it. It was the first video game I actually played, like straight up. It was so my dad before, like when he met my mom, he had a Super Nintendo, and F-Zero was like it's like the only game he's honestly played. He doesn't play games. That's the one he does play, and like it's crazy. Like it was the first game. I just have not stopped playing it. It is I always play. I love F-Zero. It's funny. I say this and it's because I know the number, and after I looked at it, I realized that it's up there in like the top speeds. But Big Blue, as a kid, I did 2:06.10 as my time, and I think that's actually the record by like And I'm like, I need to start playing again and just see if I could do it again and actually record it and get it. But Big Blue was my favorite map when I was a kid. It's like I could go on and on. Like this was de facto. Like when I was like, here's the list. F-Zero was for sure going on the top. Like there was no ifs, ands, or buts.
Nice.
I was putting F-Zero on here. And I remember specifically a scenario. It was we were moving out of my old house that we grew up in, like the house that is like in my memories as the house that I was a kid in. And my grandfather still lived there though. And there was a night where we went over there, and they, my parents and everyone, they went out. My little brother was with me, and we just my Super Nintendo was still at my grandfather's house. And we were playing it there, and we just played it like all night long. And I think that might have actually been the moment where I did it, because I just kept wanting to be better than my older brother, because we all played it as a family. It was one of those. It's like I think it's the only game that, like as a family, we all played it. Like everyone, if you're in my family, we played it. And I kept being like, this is the level I will do it, and I kept getting faster times and faster times. And man, it's so much fun. I love that game. The music, everything. Like, White Land would be my second favorite track.
Nice.
All right. Again, great game, man. Brandon, what's your number one?
I don't think we talked about it yet, but it's Chrono Trigger. You guys heard of this one?
I haven't heard of that one. Let me know
Heard of
about it.
this game?
I was so curious. I was like, what could this possibly be?
I knew when he was tossing between that and Final Fantasy. I was like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
got to be Chrono Trigger.
It's hard, but I think Chrono Trigger just beats it because I love the story so much, and also Final Fantasy VI is a perfect story too. But the way it's presented, I think, is what Chrono Trigger does that's so special.
Mm-hmm.
The way it introduces everything to you, it's not a tutorial, which is what I love. You don't know that when you're at the festival at the beginning, that's setting up your story. Every little thing that you do is going to affect you in your trial later on. That's going to affect your gameplay later on. It's like, that's so cool. And that's how games are nowadays. But beyond that, the 13 different endings, and the combat system. I think that's what really stuck out to me is like, instead of just sitting there waiting for like them to do something and then you to do something, it's like, it's so active. Like you can even have items that increase the speed of when you can attack.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels more like an action RPG than it is a turn-based. And that I haven't seen too often. Like there are very few games that still do that. But yeah, the combat system, the story, the way it's portrayed, the characters themselves are so likable and lovable, and also Akira Toriyama praise.
Yeah.
I love that man.
Yeah, and like it was my honorable mention. Like it was the one I was most pained to not have on the
That's
list.
why it hurts me.
And I still say like de facto, Secret of the Forest is the greatest video game track ever. Like for just music.
Yeah.
Out of all video game OSTs, I think Secret of the Forest is magical.
Yeah, Chrono Trigger has everything perfect.
Based on what you showed me, like the videos on like the analysis of the music, musically, I'd have to say so. Like there are definitely songs that I like better from games, but that probably has to be the greatest game song ever.
Interesting.
Like, holy shit,
Again,
it's
I'm
complex.
excited to experience it.
I'm excited for you.
Dude.
Dude.
All right. I like I said, I'm not trying to rush anybody. I want everyone to say their piece, but
Right.
we have like 13 minutes left. So
Last note on this, and I can do mine real quick, but like the fact that it's not on the Super Nintendo, when I first found that out, I was like, oh, that's surprising. It's like a classic. Everybody loves that game.
Oh,
Now
the-
I'm pissed because I don't get to
On the
experience
classic,
it
yeah.
on the classic.
I am too. I bought a controller for my phone so I can play it on my phone with a controller.
Uh-huh.
Like that's the only reason I have a controller for my phone.
Yeah, it's like it actually angered me that it wasn't on there.
Holy fuck. All right. Well, my number one, and it was an honorable mention from, I think, Jason, Mega Man fucking X.
Yeah,
boy.
man.
I told Connor, if I don't get a Super Nintendo Classic, I'm going to be at his house
Playing
24/7
it.
until I'm satisfied with Mega Man X, which maybe never. That dude, I didn't know. I didn't find out until fairly recently, like a couple years ago, that the
There it is.
that the Buster only challenge is a thing. When I was a child, I didn't know how to get the other weapons and shit.
No way.
I got to the Sigma stages with just using the Buster.
Nice.
I didn't fucking know. I had no clue how to use those shits.
Well, you should be a master at this game then.
Right?
Right?
Exactly.
Now that you're like, now that you can use the weaknesses, you're like, this is too easy.
I've always thought like, man, I'm terrible at this game. I can't. I had so much trouble with Boomer Coanger, and like Storm Eagle wasn't so bad once you like figured out the pattern, like how to run in his wind and shit.
I think Mega Man 2 Buster only is probably the hardest.
Fuck.
I love Mega Man 2.
Man, Mega Man X is such a great game. Like, legitimately.
Yeah. It's
I-
fucking dope. That's
The soundtrack, man.
dope.
I'm so hyped right now. I'm not
Again.
playing the game, but I'm fucking hyped.
Riding on cars. Yeah, man, it's fantastic. I love that all of our lists are sort of diverse. Yeah, no, they're diverse. Weldon in the chat says, so far a distinct lack of strategy games like Romance of the Three Kingdoms, PTO 2, etc. You know,
I think mine was the most obscure in this.
Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a game I never like entirely got into.
I only know of it.
Yeah, exactly. We only got a few minutes left, about 10. If anyone wants to call in and ask Jason a quick question, the number you can call in at is 909-360-8330. I will go ahead and pop that into the YouTube live right now.
Yeah, it's in there too on the little picture.
Oh yeah, it's in there on the picture. But yeah, if anyone wants to call in, talk to Jason real quick, say a few words of love and encouragement, you're more than welcome to. Just no dick jokes. That's my thing.
No dick.
Sorry, I took all the time in the world to talk, man. I'm super passionate about the Super Nintendo and all this stuff, man.
It made it
what a great console.
Exactly. Don't be
learned a lot.
absolutely. Yeah, it's it's great to have a guest that's very passionate about things. The last two, actually, every guest we've had so far has been fantastic. We've been very lucky with guests that have coming on. And also, quick announcement while we're talking about guests. Next week, we're going to be having a huge guest. His name is Magikarp Used Fly on YouTube. He just hit 1 million subscribers. Super cool. Come join us next week for that. Right now, we're talking with the Heine House Entertainment, the artist formerly known as the EMU Review. I got a quick question for you, man. Why'd you get rid of the EMU Review? Why are you just Heine House Entertainment now?
So from the beginning, it was kind of a mistake. I liked what I wanted to do originally was the channel was going to be just me reviewing video games. In fact, my whole idea was never to even be on camera or do anything. So I wanted to review games, and I wanted to review all games, like games that never were released here in the U.S. or games that we never had access to, or arcade games which we couldn't have access to. So I wanted to use emulation in order to obviously play those. And so it rhymed. I know it sounds like a stupid thing, but it rhymed, and I wanted people to remember it. And so that's how I came up with the name. Super simple and ridiculous, but that's how it happened. And as anyone who produces things, you know that your original concept isn't always what it stays at. So you have to evolve and change and create new things. And I was doing that. I always wanted to share my music, my love of video, my love of gaming, my love of, everything. I mean, we do a Thrifting series, we do Rhythm Roulette, we do music, I do live drum covers and remixes, and I wanted an all-encompassing channel at this point. So, and of course, in order to do that, I had to rebrand myself, and I wanted to. It was time. So after I rebranded myself, everything changed. Everything was, I'm not pigeonholed into one area anymore, which is great. So I'm really happy for that.
Sick.
There you go. There's some horizon shift right there.
Yeah, man, you produced this. Man, well, since I know everyone doesn't know, or if they don't know, can you go down a quick list of the different video games you've produced music for? I mean, obviously, I know there's a lot, but if you could do that, that'd be really cool.
Your favorites.
Just grooving along right here. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. So I started in 2010, which was my very first introduction to gaming. I did a game called what was it called? Conquest. I did a game called Conquest, and that was on Xbox 360, which was great. That was my first foray into it was like a tank kind of strategy type of video game. And then it quickly moved from. Actually, I got that gig from my podcast. A programmer and developer was listening to my podcast and hired me to to do that, which is fantastic.
Nice.
And then from there, it kind of moved. It moved pretty quick. I got hired on to do Happy Console Gamer the movie soundtrack, which was released in 2013. And then I got hired on to do Gamester 81's channel intro and do some sound design type stuff like that. I've done a game called Motor Rock, which used to be on Steam before Blizzard took it down.
Oh.
Some Russian company was doing a game called Motor Rock, but it was basically a rock and roll racing remake. And I didn't know that they actually ripped assets from the original game. And so that was really shitty for me.
Ooh.
It was a bad gig. But a great game. I did the sound design and voices for that. Yeah, there you go.
Let's go.
Yeah, and then from there, did some stuff. Horizon Shift, obviously, that's on Steam. I did a game called Signal to Noise. It's a music game. I've done a game called Justice Beaver, which is coming out for Super Nintendo.
Oh,
It's an
man.
indie game,
That
collector
looks
vision game.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's coming out, still in development. And then my newest project, which is something you guys probably would all really like, it's called Racing Apex. It's going to be released on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. It's going to be a cross release, but this is a throwback to early like Sega racing games. It looks all flat shaded polygon.
Nice.
All right, it looks like virtual racing. You absolutely should check it out. I'm doing the soundtrack to it. It's a dream come true for me. After talking with you guys, you know I'm like super passionate about the FX chip and polygons. So like I am stoked about this project. But it's going to be definitely a throwback racing arcade 90s arcade racing game. So that will be on many platforms. So check it out.
Nice, man. So I know we're getting up right to the end. Real quick, if people want to follow you like on social media, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You're going to want to just basically, you can go to anywhere that you consume your entertainment, whether you go to YouTube, whether you go to Twitch, social media, anywhere, just type in my name, Jason Heine, Heine. But you can go to my website, HeineHouseEntertainment.com. That'll probably be the best place because it has all the links there. I'm on Twitch. I do a show Thursday through Sunday. I do a live drum session where people request music, and I do improv drumming, and it's tons of fun. So come check that out. Obviously, I'm on YouTube. We do all kinds of fun antics there. It's a lot of fun. And Bandcamp if you want to hear music. And yeah, man, I just appreciate you having me be on here and even allowing me to plug my stuff there. I'm a big firm believer in the arts and music. I love people who are creative and are able to get that out there and, you know, push forward to do what you really are passionate and love in life. So I'm a firm believer in that. So I appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity to talk.
Of course, man.
Absolutely.
So
It was great meeting all three of you too. Connor, Brandon, right? Who else? I'm missing one more. Hold on, I took notes. Miguel.
Oh wow!
Hey.
Yeah.
I'll just
appreciate
let
meeting
it
you
flounder
guys.
around.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
been
it was
fantastic.
great. having you,
Absolutely.
man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you were great to talk to. It was awesome.
Thanks, bud.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
That was Jason Heine of the EMU Review, everybody.
Who?
Who? Nah, super great guy.
Yeah.
I've you
Yeah,
know
he's
been,
awesome.
been following his work for a long time. I was a huge fan of his podcast, and I somehow through one email got him to come do the soundtrack for Horizon Shift.
That's so cool.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I kind of set it up, I should say, you know, between Paul and him. I didn't have anything to do with the contract negotiations, but he was looking for someone to do music, and I was like, I know a guy, right? And man, fantastic guy. We only got a few minutes left, so
It's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I love how he actually went and got the history on
Right?
his
I
picks
know. I
and
feel unprepared.
had the release
Like,
dates
shoot.
ready to go. Like this is why that was good.
But it's a good thing we didn't all do that though.
yeah, because it would have
never
taken
made it.
way too much if
Never
we
would've.
I
all
don't
did
know.
that.
I wish I would have done that for Final Fantasy VI.
no, but it's a good thing. You know, we have an awesome YouTube live audience right now. You know, we have some pretty cool people hanging out on the Chaotic Radio app, and I know they came to hang out with DJ Heine. So thanks for stopping by, everybody, and we're gonna be ending the show in just a few minutes. Shout outs. What do you want to shout out, Connor?
Fuck school. Yeah, we'll just go with that.
Don't you want to shout out Crystal Pepsi?
Yeah, fucking Crystal Pepsi.
You know,
Crystal Pepsi's amazing.
all week, by the way, since we talked about it last, anytime anyone says they're thirsty or needs a drink, I'm like, how about an ice cold, refreshing Crystal Pepsi?
Dude, It's funny. I actually I like pull back myself on this. I'm like, I don't want to drink my stash and be like, oh, I don't have any more Crystal Pepsi.
He has a stash.
Yeah, I literally have a stash. My entire top shelf of my refrigerator and like 2 shelves on my door are just full of Crystal Pepsi.
This is not an
That's
exaggeration.
funny.
I saw it earlier
He
today.
just saw it. Yeah, he was like, oh, they still set it at Target. And I was like, oh, I got this.
Real quick, we got 1 minute left, Miguel.
What? Oh, I don't got nothing.
Okay,
man.
I got
Brandon.
something then. Okay, so if you like to buy some T-shirts, if you like video games, which is why you're here, or anime, I design T-shirts. Easiest way to find those. You can just follow me at friendly_fire_design. So friendly fire design separated by underscores on Instagram. I have links to my TeePublic store on there where you can view all my T-shirts for sale. Yeah, that's about it.
Nice.
Very cool, man. So again, shout out to everyone in the crowd. Next week we're gonna have Magikarp Use Fly on the show. Week after that we're gonna have Stephen Crow in studio with us. Won Programmer of the Year in '87 and '88 for his work on Earthworm Jim
Whoa.
and other really cool stuff.
Oh shit!
Yep, got some really cool guests coming on. And so from everybody here at Chaotic Radio and on the Kinda Gaming Show, we want to say goodnight and
Good
thank
night.
you for coming.
We fucking love you.
Thanks.
Still be repping this out solo.
Repping out solo?
Yeah, repping out solo. Cause sometimes I roll in my low and bump tunes so I know the cops know. Approach me, I give them the no. I just tell them like this. This is JB up on the beach, yo. From SeaTac to P-Town to Frisco. I got the whole place pumping.